Your teams need to master new technologies fast, and they need answers to pressing problems right now. Don't stress. With O'Reilly, your tech teams can learn what they need and get back to work fast. Visit O'Reilly.com for a demo. That's O'Reilly.com.
People, another good story from the swamp tonight. Larry A., by the way, if you haven't signed up for Swamp Dwellers channel, come on, let's do this. He's almost at 250,000 subscribers. Let's help him get there. Larry A., good to see you. Little Miss Cindy, welcome to Spaced Out Radio's channel, Downshift. Thanks for joining us. Spooky Morales in your trumpet. How you doing, buddy? I'm going to run out of time here. I can already tell. Let's see here. Where else are we going here? Chat room's moving. Dale Brewster, welcome to the channel. Thank you for joining us. The gorgeous Julie Wheeler has returned. Project Blue Book, good to see you. And who else is showing up here? Lovely Lynn LeBlanc, the triple L they like to call her back home. All right, and we are caught up. There we are. Good stuff. So, Super Chat is open. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Hi, Ann B. Good to see you. And we are 30 seconds away from launching. Don't forget, you can get all your Spaced Out Radio swag on our website, spacedoutradio.com. We would appreciate it. And plan for Las Vegas, April 22nd to 24th, the first ever Spaced Out Radio get-together with our fans. It's going to be an absolute blast. Hi, Kelly Lewis. Nice to see you. The gorgeous Oracles and beyond, thank you for joining us. And, we want to see you all in Vegas. Hi, Richard Elmore. Favor time. Horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Man, we got a great show for you tonight. I know I say that every night, but damn it, tonight is a fantastic one. Television producer Brian Kniffel is here to talk about Bigfoot and other anomalies around the phenomena. Then we go to hour number 3, where we'll head to the swamp for another spooky story from Swamp Dweller. It's Dave versus Dave night as well. You get the Dave 101, Shirky Poo's News, the Thought of the Dave, a jam-packed show. Tonight's Dave 101 topic, too much individualism in our research. All right, let's get to our guest. 70 years ago, a murderous Bigfoot-like creature sent residents fleeing from Portlock, Alaska. Now, an expedition has gone in there and checked it on out. It's an abandoned fishing village, seeing if they can reclaim the land and its resources from this terrifying beast called the Nantinak. Yep. Brian Kniffel was on that film crew. He is one of the producers of that show. And I'll tell you, this dude here, he's seen it, he's been there, he's done it, and we're glad to have him here on Spaced Out Radio. Brian, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you here. Let's talk about your career right off the bat. You live down in the shiny parts of California, very involved in television. You've worked with the Dead Files for a number of years, the Blind Frog Ranch series that we will get into a little bit later on in the show. But this story about Alaska's killer Bigfoot, I mean, this is intriguing, man. You've done a lot in television and movies, documentaries. What brought you over to this spooky side, man?
Some of it was dumb luck and some of it is personal interest. You know, like I would say that I was not seeking it out specifically. It's always something that I've enjoyed reading about and kind of hearing stories from people who have had their own experiences. But it wasn't something that I had gone looking for in the past. But once I had a chance to go out on some of these investigations with Amy and Steve on Dead Files, there was kind of no turning back after that. Because, I always say, you don't know what you don't know. So you just go in with an open mind and let it take you where it does.
Were you always a believer in this phenomena, or did you have to be convinced that there was something going on?
I still, to this day, I do everything I can to maintain my skepticism. I'm not trying to have a pre-existing belief confirmed. I'd just as soon never have an experience if that was what was real. All that matters to me is that it's real.
Now, when you're filming something like this, and you've heard a lot of topics thrown at you over the years, have there ever been any ones that you could just laugh at regarding monsters or legends or folklore that you're like, come on, man, I'm not wasting my time on something like that?
Kinda, yeah. I mean, I don't want to disparage anybody, but I mean, we used to field a lot of phone calls working in the offices for Dead Files, and people would tell us just bizarre stories, stuff that, even in the world of paranormal, the strange and the unexplained, it seemed kind of too far out there, where people were seeing extraterrestrial stuff that would then shapeshift and become more of a ghost form, and then there'd be some sort of sexual act that followed, and stuff like that. When it's the first time I'm hearing that, I'm just thinking to myself, somebody's got to be messing with me. This can't really be happening the way it's being described to me.
It's far out the way where you can't really draw the line at an imagination, because I mean, some of these stories get so bizarre and people believe what has actually happened to them. And I'm a firm believer, man, that for the majority of stories out there that we hear, ones that we scratch our head to, others that we laugh at, the one thing that I've always tried to encapsulate with this show is the fact that we haven't stood in that person's shoes. We don't know what is going on. So as a television producer, how do you draw the line with that? Because you not only have to think about bringing some interesting stories to the screen, but you also have to maintain some sort of credibility.
Sure, yeah. So in almost every case, we have to do some pretty thorough vetting to make sure that people aren't just messing around. Because that's happened. People's, oh, you're doing a TV show. Well, let me tell you about this story I just made up. So you have to ask them to tell you the story 20 times to make sure that the details don't change. Important things like the location or the height of what they saw or the color or, whatever the key details of the story are. You want to make sure that they're always consistent and that people aren't just kind of improvising as they try to keep you on the line.
Is there any story out of all the ones you've heard, is there any story that's stuck out with you, whether it made it to television or not?
Oh yeah. I mean, I talked to, there was one woman, in Pennsylvania years ago, and this was actually included in an episode of the Dead Files. And she was 100% convinced with all her heart that she was being repeatedly attacked sexually by a ghost in her house. And the first time I heard it, I felt terrible for her, but I wasn't 100% convinced that I believed her, because it just seemed so wild to me. It just seemed impossible because I hadn't heard it before. And she showed these marks on her wrists. It happened to her while we were there to film with her. Not in that exact moment, but when the camera crew and I went home for the night, it happened to her. And so she showed the next day, she pulls up her shirt, sure enough, wrists are all red, looks like handprints have been holding her wrist down. And I know that that's something theoretically that could be faked, but I have enough faith in people to think that that's a difficult enough thing to talk about, that I would have a tough time believing that somebody is making up a paranormal sexual assault and then hurting themselves just for the purpose of selling this. And I spent enough time with this woman that the emotional pain she was going through was very, very real. So whatever was happening was real.
We've had a couple of people speak about that subject on this show. Patty Negri out of Los Angeles, psychic medium and psychic to the stars. She has actually delved into that quite a bit. And a lady named Varla Ventura has also looked into the adaptation of ghost sex. I mean, it's a weird thing, man. I don't get it. I really don't. but it's one of those topics, man. You just kind of, like we said, scratch your head and you kind of run with it, Brian. That's definitely for sure. I want to ask you about your time on the Dead Files. You know, a lot of these paranormal shows take a very, very large ribbing from the paranormal supernatural community because everything is fake. You could, you know, everything is made up. Everything is contradicted. That's not how you investigate. This is not how it works. I mean, you've been there, seen it, done it all, heard the criticisms of everything like that. You know, what is your thoughts of all the criticisms going on about paranormal television regarding the potential of some of it being made for television?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of those criticisms are fair. You know, because as somebody who likes being a part of this stuff myself, you know, I look at things through a magnifying glass. You know, when I'm watching these shows, I'm going, okay, does that seem like something they could have put on for TV, or does that seem like something that could have legitimately happened? And, you know, I'm sure that stuff takes place. You know, I don't like it. I'd prefer that stuff not happen. But, you know, I know these people are going in looking for something to happen. So sometimes I think they convince themselves, and other times they convince the cameras. You know, but I certainly can't police what other people are doing on their sets.
No, very, very true. But is that something, you know, I mean, once again, you're painting a line of you have to create television that's going to create ratings, it's going to create revenue. I mean, is that something that you don't subscribe by maybe, but it's all part of the nature of the process because ratings are everything?
Well, but I think the point you just made is a good one, that, you know, it's part of the process. And I'm always a big fan of letting the weakness be the strength. You know, and there were a number of times on Dead Files where the homeowners were convinced that it was attacking this person in the house, and that's the story they were sticking to. And no matter what evidence came to light, they were convinced of that. And we would always let them tell their story, but we put a lot of faith on that show in Amy, right? So she's not given any information before she goes into a house. She just walks in and tells the cameras what she sees. And myself and the other producers, and this is still the way they do it today. You know, we're just stuck with whatever she says, because she walks through one time, tells the cameras what she sees, and there's no going back.
Makes it makes it easy.
It makes it easy. It also makes it very, very hard. But what we've kind of laughed about with Steve, you know, ever since is, you know, it doesn't have to be a perfect match every time. You know, Amy would be the first person to tell you that not every psychic's going to get the same stuff. Not every medium's going to contact the same spirits. Not every sensitive is going to, you know, receive the same bits of information. So she can only get what she gets, and that doesn't devalue what the homeowners claim to be experiencing. It's just not her experience in the house.
Very true.
So for us, I think that we were not bound by some of the same issues that might be faced by other shows in the paranormal realm, because we would just go with whatever Amy said she saw. That was what we were relaying to the folks at home.
Perfect. I want to ask you one question before we move on to Sasquatch here. Television over the last almost 20 years now has made a ton of money off of these shows. It's some of the most popular television. I mean, cable television never rated as high as competing with Monday Night Football on in NFL games until paranormal television and UFO television and cryptid television came to cable television. I mean, it is such a money-making phenomena for these television companies. Why do you think other mediums like radio and print really haven't jumped on the bandwagon of covering these subjects, knowing the money that television is making off of this? That is a great question, and one I wish I would have come up with. It seems ripe for it. I mean, I know that there's a number of sort of mystery podcasts where people dig out, you know, sort of the basics, the nuts and bolts of some of these paranormal stories, cryptid stories. But it does seem to be underserved. I think you're right. I think there's a lot more material there than people are getting in their ears via podcast or radio or anything else. And with the amount of stories that are out there, I mean, you're at a, there's a plethora of stories out there that, I mean, you just can't believe how much information is out there, how much research is out there. And I mean, if the public is sitting at home watching this, it just amazes me how backwards the other two mediums are.
Yeah, and I think some of this stuff really does lend itself to visual media, right? So some stuff is not going to be great for radio because you need to be able to see where you are in order to fully have that immersive experience. But I think, the flip side of that is that there's a lot of these stories that would be great if it was only audio. There's recordings everywhere of people talking about their experiences. So you could very easily do some of these stories through this is the wrong term, but through a different lens, and so that it would be more applicable for radio or for just simple audio.
All right. Well, the audience isn't here to listen to us have this talk about all this fun stuff about the behind the scenes. They want Bigfoot. They want Sasquatch. Before you made your way to Alaska, what did you know about Sasquatch?
I was far from an expert. I had limited experiences with people who try to hunt Sasquatch, who just are curious and want to view it. But other than that, not much. I was aware of the frequency of people seeing them in the Pacific Northwest. I was familiar with Boggy Creek and the Gimlin film and all that. But outside of just general pop culture references, I didn't know a whole lot.
So when you got called up to be on this crew as one of the producers, what were you thinking when all of a sudden you want to send me where to look for what?
So before I accept any job, I always want to kind of do a little bit of research on my own and figure out what it is they're trying to do, what the sort of general story is and what I might be able to add to that project. So when they told me about it, I did a little bit of reading on it, and my mind was kind of blown. I just said, if half of this stuff is true, this is amazing. Like I can't believe that this isn't a bigger story outside of Alaska.
Okay, so you're heading up there. Who do you call and say, "Hey, I've been wanting to, or I've been asked to join a Bigfoot television production"? And do you immediately, as one of the producers, just go in there as I'm going in there to film, let the people do what they need to do, or do you do your own research as well so you can kind of know what they're talking about or looking for regarding any evidence?
Oh, I did as much research as I could, and that's not just me cruising around on Google and reading articles, even though that was a part of it. I was calling everyone who would talk to me. Spoke to Ron Moorhead, who's really, really well respected in the sort of cryptid and Bigfoot world. Ron Murphy Jr. out in Pennsylvania knows a lot about this kind of thing too.
The crypto guru.
Yeah, exactly. So
did you know that we were at Ron Murphy's first ever radio interview?
I did not know that.
Yeah, and we gave him the nickname of the crypto guru. Love him.
Well, so it's stuck. That's good.
Yeah.
But, folks like that who have actually, spent a great deal of their life in pursuit of this knowledge, documenting, reliable experiences and sort of suspect experiences and sort of scaling this stuff to go, okay, that's convincing, that's compelling, this I'm not so sure about. So just to give me an idea of what I might expect. But this story in Portlock was pretty special because that area is still privately owned by the Native Corporation of the local village of Nanwalek. And thankfully, they've got a written history of basically their oral tradition was recorded and written down in this collection of history books that they have in the village. And in addition to sort of the sort of standard, this happened, then this happened type of history, they actually have firsthand accounts of Bigfoot stories in Portlock from 1900 to 1949. So there were actual firsthand accounts written down from people who had these experiences there prior to the village being abandoned.
Had you ever been to Alaska before?
I had, yeah. We had I had shot outside of Fairbanks for Dead Files, probably a decade prior, but that was the only other filming experience I had in Alaska. But This was much more challenging.
So when you set up for a film like this, and trust me, an hour or two, we're going to get more into the details and the history of this topic. But when you set up for this type of filming, what are you doing? What are you planning?
So I'm sort of planning around stories I've been told from the primary cast. Like, how am I going to introduce these people to the work, right? So we can't just go film and hope that the cast or the audience at home just understands who everybody is and why they're doing what they're doing. So the bulk of the planning part is all the introductory stuff, kind of the exposition, like the stuff that you need to know in order to follow along with the rest of the story. After that, there's sort of targets we were trying to hit, that we were trying to identify on maps, things that were outlined in the history books, the village history books that I told you about. But other than that, we were kind of winging it once we got there. Like it was get there, get a tent up, make sure that we have the basics for staying safe, and then after that, we'll venture out and see what we can find. But thankfully, a lot of the guys in this cast had a pretty good idea from the stories they'd been told of stuff they wanted to look for and stuff that was really important for them to find in order to sort of map out this old town and try to get a sense of whether or not it could be resettled.
Now, over time across North America, there have been communities that have gone missing. It's happened in Alaska with this case. It's happened in the Northwest Territories, which is now, oh my goodness, I can't even remember Canada's third territory right now. How bad of a Canadian am I?
I won't tell anybody.
Yeah, well, apparently my audience in Canada will. And Nunavut, pardon me. Nunavut. And
you could save big when you bundle your home and auto with Progressive, but when we just come out and say it, it feels like it falls a bit flat. So we're going to use humor. But we don't want to insult your intelligence, so nothing too goofy. And we need to avoid any polarizing topics. Oh, and it has to be about how you can save big when you bundle your home and auto with Progressive. You know what? Maybe humor is a bad idea. Yeah, it's never going to work. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Discount not available in all states or situations.
Your teams need to master new technologies fast, and they need answers to pressing problems right now. Don't stress. With O'Reilly, your tech teams can learn what they need and get back to work fast. Visit O'Reilly.com for a demo. That's O'Reilly.com.
It's also happened down in I believe, Virginia back in the 1700s. So when you start the history aspect of learning your territory, what kind of clues are you looking for that could all of a sudden, be useful for your filming and adventure?
I'm not 100% sure I understand the question, but I'll give it a shot. I did a ton of just visual observation, looking at it on Google Maps, looking at it on Google Earth, trying to get a sense of where things are that might be interesting. Because in this show in particular, the mission for these guys was not to go out and just find Bigfoot. That was an element of this. But they actually had a charge from their village, like, hey, we are running out of space for our population. We're maxed out. So we need to see if this place can be resettled. So in addition to navigating the cryptid stuff that's going on down there, they also had to find what remained of this old town that had been abandoned 70 years prior. So for me, in terms of preparation, we were trying to look and see on satellite images what we could find, like what's still standing. Are there clearings where there might have been a building or a collection of houses? Are there clear roads or trails? Where's the water source? Stuff like that. Trying to get a head start for when we get there. So, of course, when we arrived, we still had to go find all that stuff on foot. But being able to sort of look at it remotely was really helpful and kind of helped me wrap my head around what I might be getting myself into.
The majority of people who are listening to this show, as we got about a minute to go, look at Alaska and we've only seen it on a map or in photos and maybe some videos on YouTube or wherever. But when you were there, how small do you feel?
Oh my gosh. Never smaller. Because this place is, it's on the tip of the Kenai Peninsula. It's completely uninhabited. The closest people, like residences, are 15 miles as the crow flies. 3 hours by a little boat. So it's very easy to feel impossibly vulnerable. Like, even though we had loads of guns there, like, and some pretty high caliber ammunition, but it doesn't matter because you don't really know what's there.
Oh, that's a good place to end this segment right now. Brian Kniffel is here on Spaced Out Radio tonight. We are talking about Alaska's killer Bigfoot. And when we return from the first break, we're going to get into the history of a small place called Portlock, Alaska. What happened 70-plus years ago? Where did the people go? Were some of them murdered by Sasquatch? We are going to find out when we return on Spaced Out Radio right after this. Stay tuned. All right, we're clear. You answered that question perfectly, by the way.
Glad to do what I can.
Yeah, perfect, man. Perfect.
Hopefully. Yeah, I hope you get to go, man. It's cool. It's a wild place.
Did you get a chance to look at that link I sent you?
Of the valley?
Yeah.
I haven't read too deep into it. I have it up in front of me, but I'm very excited to get to reading it. Because it just seems insane.
Oh, yeah, dude. I mean, yeah, some of the stories out of there. I have some friends who know more about that than I do. So if you want to talk about that, I can point you in some good direction.
Yeah, I would love that, because this is the kind of stuff I live for. I wouldn't say that I'm this big time adventure seeker and I'm fearless or anything like that, but it's just, I want to know, man. That's everything.
Yeah, dude. I want to. That's the one story I want, man. And trying to find somebody to interview about Headless Valley is extremely difficult. It's like nobody wants to talk about it. They're out there. The information is there. They've already put it out there, but speaking more about it, they don't want to. Am I getting your last name correct in Kniffel?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
That's better than most people do.
All right. Yeah, I'm sure they're all Kniffel. Kniffel.
Yeah. Oh, I've gotten every version of it except the right one.
Yeah. Perfect. I win. Scoring points here. All right. We've got about another 3.5 minutes here.
And this is terrestrial.
Yeah. It's our terrestrial.
Commercial time?
Yeah. Timing everything out, my friend.
Oh, yeah. I know that game all too well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. How much of the good stuff actually falls on the floor in editing?
We tried really hard to include everything we possibly could. Anything that was compelling, from sounds to equipment malfunction, anything that could be paranormal, we tried to use. But I would say that we probably still ended up losing 10% of it in terms of the good stuff. And there's plenty of stuff that's just not interesting that never goes anywhere, and that just gets scrapped.
Yeah, catch somebody scratching their ass or something like that.
There's a lot of ass scratching that gets caught by mistakes.
No, very true, man. Very true. See, this is why I'm happy to have a face for radio. It just works easier for me. Well,
I'll tell you what, man. This is not my venue. I don't spend much time in front of the camera.
Oh, I hear you. I have to do it every night, and I can honestly say it bugs me every night. It bugs me. I'm like, shit, I forgot to shave, or I forgot to do this, I forgot to do that.
Yeah. But, that's all part of the gig, I guess.
Oh, yeah. And then the wardrobe. You got to make sure that you have a new shirt on every night because you don't want to wear the same one 2 nights in a row.
Yeah, because if you have dedicated viewers, they'll let you know about it.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. That they will. It's another good story for you. Have you ever talked to...
Keep them coming.
You ever talk to a guy named Max Hawthorne?
Not that I'm aware of.
There's somebody, he's an author, and he goes out looking for, like, the super beasts. And he believes that there is and he's got photo evidence of the super sharks that are out there. Like the average great white like a female great white is bigger than the male, so it'll grow up to 20 feet. But he believes that there's this genetic species of great white that are going up to like 30 to 40 feet, like Jaws, not as big as Megalodon, but getting bigger. And they're actually and he's actually done some real nice data on it regarding bite marks that he's seen in whales and other sharks.
Oh, yeah, I've seen some of these photographs of these bite marks.
Oh, dude, Max Hawthorne is incredible with it. Incredible with it.
And is that the only sort of creature that he goes after, or is it
no. Kraken?
Yeah, looking for thunderbirds and all that stuff too.
Thunderbirds. There is an interesting story about the thunderbirds where there's a First Nation up on the West Coast, way north of me, where they honestly believe that some of their members of their reservation have disappeared to become ropin food, pterodactyl food.
How bizarre.
Yeah. We got 5 seconds here. Thank you to Smithy for the super chat. It's a great way to support what we do on a nightly basis. Here we go with the second half hour. Here we go with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire, checking out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight, Alaska's Killer Bigfoot. Brian Kniffel is with us. He is one of the producers of the television series regarding this, I don't even know what to call it, monster? Legend? Did it happen? We're going to find out here very soon. Brian, welcome back.
Thanks.
Now, this show can be found on Amazon Prime, correct?
So it's on Discovery Plus exclusively, but there's a Discovery Plus channel on Amazon Prime.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So that way people can go check it out. All right, let's learn about this. Let's go back in time a little bit. About 70, 71 years ago here, about the town of Portlock, Alaska. Why is this important?
So once upon a time, this town of Portlock, Alaska was a bustling fishing village that was just pulling in all kinds of fish, halibut, salmon, you name it. And they were growing very, very rapidly. They had a fishing cannery. They had, I think, at one point, 300 full-time residents, in addition to seasonal workers. And if it had kept growing, it may well have been, the big city in that part of the world. But sometime around 1915, people started disappearing. So, and people who know a lot more about the history than I do will probably get mad at me for blowing some of these details. But basically, between 1915 and 1949, like 2-3 dozen people just disappeared. And the ones who didn't disappear turned up dead and mutilated in the waterways in and around Portlock. So in the streams and the lagoons, some of these guys who left to go hunting were just showing up with, their arms ripped off or their head split in two. But the unifying thing was that nothing was eating the people. They were just being ripped apart and then sent back to the village. Something was trying to send these people a message. So at some point, the people there, figured their number might be next. So some people left soon, but eventually the elders of the village just evacuated the whole town, just said, forget this, we're out of here. And they packed up and they just abandoned the entire town. The one person, I wish I could have spoken to this person. There was an actual U.S. post office there, and the postmaster had to stay after the town was abandoned until they went through the proper federal channels to close down the post office. So there were like one or two people there for an additional couple of months after the town was completely abandoned.
Nothing freaky about that.
Yeah, I cannot imagine. I mean, we were there with 10-ish people in Portlock. I cannot imagine being there with 2 or 3.
Okay,
in the dead of winter.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. So my question to you is this: where is Portlock located in Alaska? Because, being in British Columbia, we actually share a border with Alaska. And is it in the little panhandle coming down, or is it more up in the state?
So it's on the southwest tip of the Kenai Peninsula. So if you're looking at a map of Homer and you were to go south across Kachemak Bay and around the point of that side of the Kenai Peninsula, it's down there. So if you look for Elizabeth Island on a map, it's the bay inside of Elizabeth Island.
Okay, so it's pretty remote.
Incredibly remote. I don't think I've ever been so far away from potential help.
Right. So for our Canadian listeners out there, this is it's in the Ketchikan area, correct? Or is it the Yakutat?
My Alaskan geography is not great, so
I'm trying.
So I don't want to say the wrong thing and upset some folks. So
I'm trying to find it here for us, so that way, because I believe the area you're talking about is very close to the British Columbia border, way up in the northwestern part, near the Skagway type of area or south of the Skagway type of area. So I mean this.
Well, this is right on the coast.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is right out off the coast of, well, it's basically 20-ish miles southwest of Homer, like right at the mouth of the Cook Inlet.
Makes sense. So you literally you're in the middle of nowhere here, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm just putting up a map of Alaska here for our listeners to be able to see. So we're talking in probably around this area right here in the southern part of Alaska near British Columbia.
No, so I'd go up and to the left quite a bit across the Gulf of Alaska.
Oh, really? Way over?
Yeah, so you can see, so if you go just northeast from where your cursor is, where you see Homer there, yep, you're real close. So that's the Kenai Peninsula where your cursor is over.
Oh, right there.
So it's
okay.
Yeah, so it's in that part of Alaska.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but it is out there. I mean, even though if you live in a place on the road system, 20 miles doesn't seem like a great deal of distance. But when it's when it's in the some of the roughest boating waters in the world, with some of the nastiest weather to accompany that. It's the longest 20 miles you can ever travel.
Right. Okay. So not near British Columbia. Just I was wrong with that. I apologize. All right. So this area here, I mean, obviously when people look at this area where, you think, the Deadliest Catch on Discovery Channel, where all of these crab boat fishermen are coming in and out along the waters there. I mean, this is dangerous area everywhere. I mean, not only on land because of the animals that are there, from 2,000-pound moose to 2,000-pound Kodiak bears and grizzlies and everything like that. But I mean, the waters there, I mean, you can die in an instant due to the temperature, and the currents there are fairly incredible too. So it's not a safe place. No, and those waters are famously, terrible for marine navigation. They have I think it's second most extreme tidal fluctuations on Earth. Second only to the east coast of Canada, I think. So you get these huge tidal swings, and you pair that up with big open ocean swells that are caused by storms in the Arctic, and they meet one another. So if you have a fast outgoing tide anywhere near Portlock, plus incoming swell,
those basically collide and they make a giant pyramid out of water, and that's enough to capsize a boat of any size.
Oh.
So getting out there was insane. It seemed from the beginning that this project itself was going to be cursed, just because we couldn't even get a boat to bring us there because the weather and the water was so awful.
Do you have to go in by helicopter?
So we took a couple of trips in with different gear. The first time we went out on a barge, and we had to take a 100-foot barge out of Homer to make it in, and it was the hairiest boat ride I've ever been a part of. It was, we were all kind of holding on for dear life on the bridge, just hoping this boat made it around the point.
Oh my gosh, I don't even want to think about that. I'm getting sick to my stomach just thinking about that. Oh my, I get seasick really, really quick.
Oh, you would not have cared for this.
No. Okay, so the fact that you're in this remote, desolate place, are the buildings still standing? And what shape is the town in now, 70 years later?
So you would almost not know that there had been a town there. The only real giveaways when you arrive are there is one cabin standing in a meadow, like clear. So if you just walk around a bit, you'll find it. And the only other giveaway that there was a town there is there's metal ruins from the old fish cannery strewn about the beach. So if you go in on a low tide, there's all these metal gears and pipes and stuff like that you can find. And it's sort of, the rest of it's just been kind of claimed by the forest. Like, you can look at historic photos of Portlock and you see all these buildings. Like, you see where the beating heart of the town was. And then you look at it now and you'd be blown away that it's gone. And as far as I know, there was no disassembling or demolition of anything. That they just left it, and basically the forest took it all back.
After 70 years, you would expect that. So, I mean, with this area being as desolate as it is, where do you start? Where do you start your investigation? I guess the first you have to set up a camp.
Yeah, that was the first thing, because it's, obviously we're concerned about the dangers of the area, whether it's bears, moose, Bigfoot, whatever. But first thing you got to do is have the safest place you can be, which is your camp. So the cast had to set up their camp. Crew had a separate camp, just so that they could do their thing and talk privately if they needed to. And that was that. From there, once we were set up and felt like we had a good sort of base camp set up, then we were able to start venturing out little by little.
Okay. So as you started your venture out, how long were you in camp for?
40 days.
Okay, so that's a long time to be sitting there. How armed were you guys for this? Did you have your own little army in case, the grizzly bears decided to come down and investigate a little too close?
Yeah, so I mean, basically, for TV purposes, a lot of networks don't want to see a bunch of guns all the time. So we tried our best to keep that stuff hidden, but most Alaskans aren't going into the bush without some kind of firearm. So we just did our best to not film that stuff too much. We've seen some of the feedback from people who have watched the show. These guys need more guns. They need more guns. But I assure everyone that we're adequately armed and ready for most anything that could have come our way.
And what a lot of people don't understand is when you're in a remote area like that, you don't go for a bathroom break without your gun. Oh yeah.
No, everybody had personal bear spray. The folks who carried firearms were always armed. We worked on a buddy system most always. So, there was no like, oh, I'm just going to walk down the beach over here and see what I see. Like that was clear no.
Absolutely.
Like, okay, who you bringing with you? You take a walkie-talkie, relay everything.
Were there any close calls?
There were times where
Keeping your tech teams on top of the latest developments is a monumental challenge. That's why over 60% of Fortune 100 companies count on the O'Reilly Learning Platform. See for yourself what O'Reilly can do for your teams. Visit O'Reilly.com for a demo.
Ready to step up your meal prep game in 2022? Make your mealtime resolutions a reality with help from HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Take your pick from 50 weekly menu and market items designed by chefs to help you save time, save money, and eat well, all delivered straight to your door. Plus, thanks to pre-portioned ingredients that help reduce food waste, you can check sustainable eating off your list too. Go to HelloFresh.com/Hungry16 and use code Hungry16 for 16 free meals plus 3 free gifts.
Lost contact with people, yeah. Yeah, where they were either out of range or their walkie-talkie didn't function. And it's not 100% clear how much of that is paranormal, but we did experience a fair bit of that.
I'm sure in a location like that, though. But did you have any close encounters with like grizzly bears or giant moose that were getting a little too, curious? So
this is the weirdest thing. We never saw a moose. So I saw more moose in this running around the streets of Homer, which is a populated town by comparison, than we saw out there. But we saw plenty of evidence of bear running around. We saw some coyotes, but never got that close. But that was actually one of the things that Kyle, who's a cast member, he was actually brought in to be a bear guard. So he's a guy who leads backcountry adventures through different parts of Alaska and takes people to go, and basically have bear encounters safely in different parts of Alaska. And he was kind of blown away that we weren't seeing more bears. And a lot of folks believe that was actually evidence of Bigfoot activity, because in a place that is so undisturbed with infinite resources, not the least of which is salmon that run plentifully in the multiple creeks that are in that bay there. Where the hell are the bears? This is heaven for bears, and they're not there. So we did see one. We had reports of other ones, and we also found dead bears there, which was pretty interesting. So that also led the people who believed that the lack of bear activity was related to the Bigfoot activity. That just made everybody even more convinced. Who's killing the apex predators?
That's an interesting scenario and thought. All right, so let's go back in time again. 70 years ago, we have this town that is literally having the people pushed away in Portlock, Alaska, where they are, being run over by this Sasquatch. At what point in the history of this story did the word Sasquatch come up that this was the culprit?
So that I'm not sure about. I think the folks in Nanwalek, the people who descended from the people of Portlock, they don't, as far as I know, they don't refer to it as Sasquatch. They call it Nantinuk. That's the word in their native language for Bigfoot. So I'm not sure at what point that became sort of the primary belief was that was the culprit. But I think it happened pretty early on. Because one person disappearing is okay, that's Alaska. But if you're a town with 300 people and 15 people go missing or 30 people go missing, you're talking about 1%. That's 40,000 people going missing in Los Angeles in the same time period. Yeah. Right? So if 40,000 people just disappeared or turned up mangled in Los Angeles, people would be freaking out.
Unbelievable.
So the per capita incident rate there was so insane that people were demanding that the fish canneries hire armed guards to protect them and escort them home. People were literally fearing for their lives for a long time before they finally called it quits.
Okay, so when everybody left that town, abandoned, now 70 years later, was there a lot of paranormal activity happening in that area as well?
See, that I'm not sure about. That's something that's not written about a ton in those books I told you about, the history books put together by the natives in Nanwalek. But I could hook you up with those guys, and they could probably tell you what the sort of personal beliefs are and what people were experiencing. But primarily the stuff that people talked about that they were afraid of was Nantinuk.
How big are the Sasquatch there?
So people say anywhere from 10 to 15 feet high. That's the most common people talk about. We had Ron Moorhead actually flew in on a helicopter and spent a couple of days with the guys and looked around, and they found an 18-inch footprint, and right above it a tree that looked to have been snapped in half by force, close to 15 feet off the ground. So that's pretty insane. I mean, I've always sort of, in my imagination, figured, 8 feet tall, 9 feet tall, it'd be a pretty big Sasquatch. And then when you double it, it's like, oh, now we're dealing with otherworldly size and strength.
I've seen one 18-inch track in the forest. My buddy Mike found it in 2016. And I will tell you, when you put your foot up beside that, it is amazing how small you feel. It is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And here this thing is putting an imprint into a logging road, which is highly packed down, and you put your foot beside it, and your foot isn't even making a mark on the gravel road.
Yeah, you're not even moving the top crust.
No. I mean, I know what you're talking about with that. So, was there a lot of Sasquatch evidence around this town as you guys were setting up camp?
So when we're setting up camp, I mean, we're kind of worried about, logistics and keeping people from freezing to death. So when we arrived, it was in April of 2021, and excuse me, we got hit almost immediately by an insane late season blizzard and just got clobbered. So we're out there trying to set up tents. So there may have been activity right in front of us. I didn't notice it because I'm just trying to make sure my team doesn't freeze to death. But once we actually got out there and started exploring, there's all kinds of evidence, just bizarre stuff everywhere. And we had, on our team, people who have had, personal run-ins with Bigfoot. So I kind of deferred to them on following what that evidence was. But, all I cared about was staying safe from the elements and kind of seeing what we could see safely. Because, the last thing I wanted was for us to have to pull the plug, to get somebody to safety or something to that effect.
Okay, so at any time as you're setting up camp, at night, Bigfoot has been known to be very curious about who's entering its territory. Were you guys having any action at night while you guys are all bundled up trying to stay warm and try and get some sleep?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it happened all the time while we were there. So it was anything from standard kind of the sound of footsteps. And when you're out there, I mean, it's the wilderness. So it's dry grass, it's sticks breaking, it's rocks being moved aside, and you hear all that stuff. But one of the things that kind of freaked out a couple of the crew members, and this is actually in the show, you can see this. They're trying to sleep in their camp, and they heard what sounded like a shriek or a squeal. And there's a noise they hadn't heard before. It was super late at night, 2, 3 in the morning. And so first thing in the morning, they went and alerted Kyle, who is the bear guard, and said, hey, we were woken up by this crazy noise. And his first thought wasn't Bigfoot. His first thought was, that sounds like a baby bear. And it just so happened that he had heard a similar sound. And that put him on alert. So they go looking in the woods, in the snow. This is in daylight by now. But go looking and trying to follow these squeals. So when we get into the woods, following these squeal sounds that have been going since the night before, the sounds change. They're not squealing anymore. Now it sounds more like a growl or a groan. And the deeper we get into these woods, the louder it gets and the more aggressive it sounds. And by the end, it sounds, the only thing I could liken it to is like a lion's roar. It was so just very, very strange that it starts out sounding like, a crying baby bear. And by the time we get into the woods, it sounds nothing like that. It sounds just like this awful guttural growl.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
And for the camera, you got to keep going. You got to keep pursuing. But were there any times during this, as we got about 90 seconds here, were there any times during this where you guys just said, whoa, let's stop, we're getting a little too deep into the forest, we got to think safety here as well?
Oh yeah, multiple times. So, that's actually one of the criticisms we've read in some of the feedback from people who watch the show is it seems like you're so close. Like, why don't you keep going? Something happens and then you leave. But, what we have to keep in mind is that we've got a whole team to account for. And on the very first day, we all agreed, if anybody doesn't feel safe, if it feels like we need to get out, no questions, we'll pull the plug and we'll reassess the next day. So that way people weren't going to be put into a more vulnerable situation. They weren't going to endanger the rest of the team, by fear or indecision or anything like that. So there were multiple times where stuff like that would happen and somebody would say, and I did it more than once, said, all right, guys, we gotta get out of here. Like we're too close. I just want to make sure people get out safe.
And I don't think a lot of people fully understand, and I wouldn't have known this, before I moved up to where I live, but a lot of times these predatory animals, they try and get your group to thin out because they know that taking on 1 or 2 is a lot easier than taking on 8 or 10. And the further you go in the forest, the more there's going to be fear kicking in, people starting to lag, I don't want to do this, move on, and that's where the safety has to come in. But, my friend, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We're going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Brian Kniffel, producer, Alaska's Killer Bigfoot. We're going to get into a lot more Bigfoot talk right here on Spaced Out Radio. You can find it on Discovery Plus. It's not available in Canada. I have checked. That is disappointing, but we'll find a way to watch it. All right, there we go. High Nose on Scent. Eric with a K. Everybody, we are Eric's 3rd favorite show in the world. We're number 3, everyone. Oh, yeah.
Wow, congrats.
Yeah. Hey, he has a lot of pull. Yeah, that's... I've been in one situation like that. One situation where I was taking a friend out to see the gifting site, to check on one of my gifting sites that I have. And we were talking, I'm like, okay, we're probably another 30 yards this way. Took 2 steps, got growled at right by something right in front of us. Could not see it. It was maybe 30, 40 feet in front of us. Could not see it. And it growled low, and it was one of those growls that said, don't take another step further. And she was like, well, let's go. I'm like, no, we're going to get killed if we go any further. Now, I don't know if it was a bear or a cat or maybe a Sasquatch. I don't know. But I can tell you this. There are times when you hear nature call, and I'm not talking about you taking a piss, okay?
Sure.
But when you hear nature make its sounds, you get the hell out because you are not the number one person in that forest.
Oh yeah, yeah, and like even with 10 of us there, it never felt like it was ours. Mm-hmm. It always felt like we were uninvited guests where we were.
Oh yeah.
And that never feels comfortable, especially when you're in a place where you don't really know your way around. It all kind of looks the same.
Very much so. Very much so.
Yeah, so it wasn't until, a few weeks in that we kind of knew where some of the landmarks were, certain trees that we recognized, certain bits of ruins that we had found, that we could sort of use to navigate our way through the woods.
Very cool. Very cool. I would love to see that place.
It is unreal, like nothing else I've ever seen.
We'll get into some questions here from our audience here in hour 2, because I know they're going to have some. But, I mean, at any point, I'll save it for a couple of minutes.
Fair enough.
I could talk hours with you about this. I really could.
Oh yeah, and I got the stories for you, so I'm glad to share.
Are you having fun?
Oh yeah, this is great. I mean, this is like talking shop with the camera crew, after filming all day.
Oh man, yeah.
Because it was like that. It was we'd have all this crazy stuff happen during the day, and then we'd sit around at night, just going, "Can you believe that? Can you believe that happened?"
In the meantime, you're getting checked out as you're having that campfire talk.
Yeah, and that was the general belief among everybody there.
Mm-hmm.
So and we had people on the team sort of more skeptical than I am even, and those guys were like, we'd all be out in the woods and there'd be some big crazy noise, and it'd be, okay, yeah, I heard that, like where you can't deny it anymore. It's like, if it's a moose or a bear, how come we never see that?
Well, I don't know.
Or any evidence of that. I mean, we had a bunch of Alaskan Bushmen on the cast, and they know what bear tracks look like. They're hunters. They're subsistence guys. Like, they're like, no, I don't see any meaningful, bear activity evident in the immediate area. So there's no reason to assume it would be a bear.
Right. Man, I love places like that. That's why I love where I live, man. It is like you go. If I go, which direction is my studio here? If I go 4 miles behind me, 3 miles behind me, I'm in dense forest.
Oh, that's awesome.
100-year-old trees. Old growth that you don't know. I know in that area there's a giant wolf pack that hunts cattle.
Yeah, that would freak me out.
Oh yeah. You stroll through there. You drive the terrain there, and you can hear them howling in the background. The moose tracks, the bear tracks. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I would just prefer to live just far enough away that that they're not in my backyard.
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens. My son heard something at the front door yesterday, about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we got a glass window on our front door, and he goes and looks, and there's deer standing right at my front door, like they were knocking to come in.
Waiting for a snack?
Never happened before. Lived here 6.5 years. Never happened. Yeah,
Are you from that part of Canada?
Oh, I'm from British Columbia, but I'm from closer to Vancouver.
Okay.
So I'm used to concrete, not wildlife. So it's kind of cool. Want to say a big thank you to Smithy here for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. We really do appreciate the love, Smithy. Thank you so much. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And a big thank you to all the veterans tuning us in tonight. Don't forget this weekend, Lynn Wallington, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, and the after-hours show that follows. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Raconteur. Raconteur is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with Brian Kniffel, producer of the TV series Alaska's Killer Bigfoot. This took place in a town 70 years ago in deep Alaska, Portlock, which is no longer a community. It was abandoned because of what they called the Natinak. Could this monster have been killing people and maiming people? That's what we're here to find out. Brian, welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So when you got to this site, did you see a lot of signs of Sasquatch right off the bat?
I would say no, but I also, like I said, I'm not an expert in Sasquatch activity. So at that point, I wasn't 100% certain what I was looking for. We were just trying to see what was left of this town and look for evidence of Sasquatch. So as we went along and we started discovering things, you start to notice patterns. You start to see things where you're like, oh, that thing that, if there were just one of these things, now it means something because there's 20 of them. So the best example I have of that is the guys came across an old growth Sitka spruce tree, and all the bark had been scratched off of the lower part of the tree, especially on the roots. And this only was happening in one part of the forest. So if I just saw this on a tree, as a city dweller, right? Like I'm just in Alaska and I see a tree with no bark on the roots, I probably don't think twice. But if you followed it, there was a trail of it. There's just like one corridor of trees where all the bark had been removed from all the trees up this sort of game trail. And it all led right to this gigantic Sitka spruce tree that was estimated at 600 years old. And it was the only tree like it in the area. There used to be a logging operation out there in Portlock, and all the big trees were cleared. But for some reason, this one was not, and had visible scratch marks in the roots, and all the bark had been removed from the lower portion of the tree. I'd never seen anything like it.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Wait a minute. I've heard that before. That's the note Jeremy wrote to me in my yearbook in the 6th grade. How'd you even know that?
Because it's from Geico.
Yeah, wait, here it is. Dear Luke, have a great summer. P.S. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. Love, Jeremy.
Geico's had this tagline for years, because we help save people money.
So wait, you're saying Jeremy copied you? Yeah, that actually does sound like something the J-Man would do.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
In the time before AT&T fiber internet.
What? What are you doing in me dungeon?
It's the only place where the bloody Wi-Fi works.
Oh, and you don't mind the spiders?
Spiders? What spiders? Oh no, they're everywhere! Oh!
In the time after AT&T fiber internet.
It's nice having fast, reliable Wi-Fi in the whole house.
For sure.
The dawn of a better internet era with AT&T fiber.
Limited availability in select areas. Check eligibility at att.com/getfiber. AT&T Smart Wi-Fi extenders may be required. Sold separately. Restrictions apply.
These guys spend tons of time out in the bush, and they all said that looked really unusual and not natural to them as well. So it was becoming aware of stuff like that sort of, sharpened my eyes, and I think probably those of the crew too, the camera crew, in terms of what kind of stuff we were looking for, what kind of stuff we were expecting to see.
How about tree structures? Were there any tree structures that were found nearby?
Yeah, quite a few actually, and different sort of shapes and sizes and apparent purposes as well. I can't give away too much because those episodes haven't aired yet, but we did find a number of tree structures. One that is very, very interesting, and from folks I've talked to, the biggest anyone's heard of.
Okay, so describe interesting for our audience, if you don't mind.
So I'm trying to think of where we are in the series. So there's 8 episodes, and 6 of them are available now on Discovery Plus. So basically, the ones that they've found on the show by now resemble kind of lean-to, almost like teepee structures. So there'll be an old like stump or a tree trunk or something, somewhere between 6 and 10 feet high, and a bunch of sticks will be leaned up against it to build, a windbreak or a shelter of some kind. And keep in mind, this is private land. Like there are people who trespass out there, but in general, people don't go. Like it is not a place where people are going out and walking around and sitting down and having lunch or even hunting. So they're not supposed to anyway. So there's an outside chance that this stuff was put there by humans, but a very outside chance. It's put together in a haphazard enough way that I would rule out that people had made it.
Alaska is also known for a lot of people who just want to escape life. All right, that they disappear into the forest, they get out as far away from civilization. We're not just talking criminals dodging the courts. We're talking people who have just had enough of life, and they just say, "That's it. I'm done. I'm out of here." They're not suicidal or anything like that, but they're just done with society. Maybe a bad divorce or too much stress at work, and they just snap. And they just take off. How do you know it wasn't any type of wild? I'm going to use the term wild human that had maybe been doing this or watching you guys.
I guess if I had to say 100%, I don't. But we saw no evidence of that. We didn't see human footprints. I mean, this place is a ghost town. There's no evidence of people walking around there. There's, any garbage that's found there, like any relics, is like glass bottles from 50 years ago. The last time people were there on a regular basis was during the Exxon Valdez oil spill when they were cleaning up down there for that. So there could be wild people running around down there, but I never saw any indication of that. And I know that Alaskans are a different breed and they can live in those elements, but it was so brutal out there, even in the early summertime, that I'd be surprised to learn that somebody was down there, somebody who wanted to escape reality, as you pointed out, was then, chancing being found out or seen by a television crew in this remote place just for the sake of messing with us.
No, very, very true.
So I acknowledge that it's possible. I think it's pretty unlikely.
It makes sense. Brian Kniffel is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Kaiju wants to know, did you guys find any possible nests like what was found at the Olympic Project found?
I'm not super familiar with what they found on the Olympic Project, but we did find a number of sort of strange, like kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say they're like basket shaped, but basically where walls are built up on the sides, using fallen timber and with smaller sticks put in to sort of fill in the gaps of the bigger trees. So, I don't know enough about the habits to know if it's a nest, but out there, a lot of the stuff we were finding, we said resembled hunting hides. Like places where animals of prey would hide out. There were places where, different foliage and pine needles had been sort of bedded down, where something big had clearly been laying in that spot. So I guess it's possible that those were nests and we had read it wrong and thought it was a place for these creatures to hunt. But, we definitely saw things that were intelligently built and, not refined enough to make me think they were human.
My goodness. Wow. What other types of evidence did you notice, or did your team notice around that area? Were there a lot of footprints, not only maybe ones that had been around for a little bit, but newer footprints or tracks that you were able to follow?
Yeah, so we found a lot of footprints. It was pretty soggy out there when we were there. So after, I want to say like week 2 or something, most of the snow had melted. So it was pretty wet for most of the time we were there. So we were seeing prints in the muddier spots, especially the spots that didn't have thick grass coverage. And we saw lots and lots of prints in the moss in the forest too. On some of the areas where there were game trails, like very clear traveled trails, we found all kinds of foot indentations. I would say that there's only a couple of them that I would have thought were almost worth taking a cast of that were very clear, gigantic footprints. The stuff in the moss, I don't think a cast would have worked. Not that I'm an expert on taking a footprint cast, but the ground was so soft and the moss was so thick that this stuff would show up, and then in a matter of days, it would be hard to find. So we took lots of video of the stuff, lots of photographs of it, knowing that it was going to be fleeting.
What was more dangerous for you guys? Filming during the day, or the fact that you were pretty vulnerable at night?
Oh, I mean, the nighttime was awful. And we were filming at night because a lot of the stuff, once we started to sort of understand where we were and what we were up against, these guys weren't willing to kind of quit, just because the day was done. So as long as there was a group of people willing to go back out into the woods, for whatever reason it was that day, whatever sort of lead or clue or whatever they wanted to pursue, we would go, and we would go film late into the night. As we got into the summer months, it didn't even get dark until midnight. That was great for me personally. Not so good if you're trying to track Bigfoot activity at night.
At any point did, like you said earlier in the last half hour, there was a point where you guys walked in the forest and this growling became more vicious and vicious as you went in. At any point before, did you, or at any other points, pardon me, did you call off a search due to safety?
Perceived safety, yeah. So there were plenty of injuries to our cast and our crew, where the terrain out there is so treacherous that just getting around is difficult, and so having somebody hurt, it's the same thing we were talking about with somebody being afraid, where if somebody is not in the right headspace, they could become a vulnerability for the entire team. I think that's also true for people's physical conditions. So, people were out there, they were suffering from mild hypothermia and frost nip and that kind of thing. So once we were out there far enough that we were starting to question our ability to get back to safety, yeah, there were multiple times where we had to say, okay, guys, that's enough. We're also working against tides out there. So there's the obvious danger of the unknown, right? So we know there's all this activity. We've seen the footprints. We've heard the growling noises. We've had all these electrical malfunctions. We know something's going on. And at a lot of times it felt like it was right on top of us. But there was never, for me personally, there was never a time where I felt like I was face to face with Sasquatch. Other people got clearer pictures than I did, but I don't have any doubt that we were within a stone's throw.
At any point, did you capture any evidence that you could look at and say, this is it, or this could be it? Because for 50 plus years, we've all been waiting for the next Patterson-Gimlin film.
Yeah, so there is footage. There is footage. So we've reviewed it 100 times, and everybody has their own ideas about how certain they are that we caught this stuff. So I don't want anybody to think that this is the second coming of the Gimlin film or anything like that. But there is stuff that we saw, and there are undeniable noises that we captured, and people are going to lose their minds when they hear it. Some of the stuff that we've seen in the footage is kind of fast moving. You see something lurking behind a tree, but it's kind of too tough to place. So, I'm fairly confident in what we captured, but there's still a lot more looking around to do.
Okay, so with that evidence that you guys caught or perceived that you caught, I mean, obviously you're there, you're the ones who are experiencing it. The Bigfoot community is going to go absolutely, snarky and tear it apart. I mean, you can only go with what the cameras caught. At any point when you caught anything, did it convince you that you were in the right area or that there were multiple Sasquatch around you?
So yeah, actually, so when Ron Moorhead came to Portlock, he brought with him a big speaker, like a PA system, because for those people who don't know, Ron Moorhead's sort of claim to fame is he interacted with a group or a family of these Sasquatches in the California wilderness in the 70s, and he actually was able to amass a bunch of recordings of Bigfoot communicating with one another. So for him, his attempt to sort of call out to the Bigfoot in Portlock, he blasted these sounds that he had recorded on this PA system at the edge of the woods. And this is no BS here. This is the craziest thing that I've ever experienced. So I think he played 3 or 4 sounds. And everybody's standing around silent. The whole team's there. Nobody's back at camp. We're all standing there. And he plays these sounds, and it just sounds like these growls, like that are playing from the speaker into the woods. And we stand there for a second, and the forest just came alive. Like every type of sound that I could have imagined and not imagined came back. So there were similar growls that came back. There were whistles that came back. There were howls that came back. There were some bird sounds, which not that unusual. There's birds in Alaska, but these things sounded like parrots or toucans. Not the type of birds that you would expect to hear in the middle of the night in remote Alaska. So, and when that happened, this is in the 5th episode, if I remember right. But people in the crew and on the cast were freaking out. Like, people were, what have we done? Because when we played that sound, it just came alive, and it sounded like it was surrounding us. So you can hear a lot of us in that scene in the show. You can hear the crew members talking to each other. And I admit that it was me for part of this time, kind of going, guys, like, what's going on? Do you hear this? It sounds like it's coming from everywhere. Like, you can hear all of us kind of, I don't want to say panicking. The guys will get mad at me for saying that. Maybe it was my own panic and I'm projecting, but it was very, very strange. And yeah, there was definitely some fear there when that was going on. So to make matters worse, when he played the next 2 sounds, I don't know if it was the second or the third sound, but a big rock was hurled out of the bushes, out of the tree line, and landed about 15 feet in front of one of our cast members. His name's Guy. And he happened to have, he happened to have a night vision camera that he was filming for himself. And his camera picked up the thud of the rock falling in front of him. So I have to assume those 2 things were related.
If you've never had a rock thrown at you from the middle of nowhere, it is eerie, man. It is very eerie. I'd never experienced that until last year. My buddy Mike and I, we drove into one of our gifting sites. Nothing had moved. We leave, 10 minutes later, we walk back up to the vehicle, and, we're on the road looking for tracks before we decide to go in, and right in between our vehicle and us, here comes a smack of a rock hitting on another rock right in front of my truck. I mean, it is eerie when all of a sudden you get a rock thrown at you.
Well, yeah, when you think about it, I mean, it's with some of the size rocks that we had thrown when we were up there. It's a death sentence if it hits you. So, it's not unlike if I'm out in the wilderness and I hear a gunshot, my head's on a swivel. I want to know where that bullet's coming from. I want to know which way it's pointed, who's shooting it, like what kind of danger am I in this exact moment? And with these basketball-sized rocks, that'd be lights out, and we'd be a half a day away at best from any kind of meaningful medical attention.
Okay, so and the thing is about this rock throwing is that it's not like they're stormtroopers in Star Wars. I think they are missing on purpose to try and distract or say, as a warning sign. Because, yes, there have been people who have been hit by rocks, but for the most part, the rock is always surrounding or in between people or just by people, like you said, 10, 15 feet away. I mean, I think that these creatures are intelligent enough and accurate enough that if they wanted to peg you in the head, they could.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that for the most part, I read that as a warning shot. So that said, it did get more aggressive in future experiences. So and they did come a lot closer to hitting some of our guys. So thankfully nobody was hit and sustained a major injury, but guys got scraped up a little bit trying to avoid being hit.
So the rocks, they just, every day you're taking rocks like grenades?
Not every day, no. No, but so the first time was doing that experiment with Ron Moorhead, where it was just the one rock came flying out of the woods and landed, 15-ish feet in front of Guy, who was filming with the camera. And then the only other time was multiple rocks hitting their tent in camp. And these things were coming from the beach and not the woods, which was even more strange.
From the beach. And how far away were you from the beach?
So they were camped out because they were trying to stay away from the woods. They wanted to create distance from the tree line for their camp. So they were out on this little peninsula in a clearing so they could have a 360 view. So they were probably on one side, 20 yards, 30 yards from the beach, and on the other side, maybe 40 or 50. So, but I mean, so not super far, but far enough that, if I'm trying to throw a 20-pound rock, I'm not throwing it, 20 yards. I know that much.
So in other words, Mr. Moorhead really pissed off the Sasquatch, and they were taking it out on you after he flew out in the helicopter.
Well, so I'm not going to blame it on Ron, because he did say explicitly, like, you guys want to have these encounters, we'll do this. But he said he did not recommend doing what we were doing. So full disclosure, Ron is much closer to an expert than any of us. And he did say, we don't know how long the response is going to take to happen. And we don't know how long the response is going to last. And that's why he said, I don't advise doing this, because, this could be weeks of aggression that comes out of this.
We've got 20 seconds here, and I still got so many questions, and I got to try and figure out getting in the Blind Frog Ranch, too, because I want to bring that up here before we say goodnight. But we have Brian Kniffel here for another 30 minutes of spaced out radio chatter regarding Alaska's killer Bigfoot. We're also going to try and touch on, in his final half hour with us, the Blind Frog Ranch. If you haven't heard about that, some interesting stories going on at this twin of Skinwalker. We'll find out more. Killer Sasquatch in Alaska. Brian Kniffel, the producer of the Discovery Plus Channel show. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio when we return. All right, we're clear, man.
Cool.
She's coming to Vegas. Come meet us.
That's cool. I'm going to actually be in Mexico for a wedding.
Well, then you can't come meet us.
I know. We'll have to go for round 2, but I would love to. I just went to Vegas in November, and I have 2 little kids, and I brought them with me. It was the strangest Vegas experience of my life.
Oh, yeah. I've done that. I've done
that. I was used to partying all night and gambling and all that stuff. I think every night I was in Vegas, I think I was in bed by 10:30.
Yeah, it was 2010 for me when that happened.
What, Vegas or little kids?
When we drove from Disneyland over to Las Vegas.
Okay.
And, thank goodness the grandparents were with us because they gave us a night off. And,
oh, man. I could have used that.
Yeah, we got there, and everybody about 9 o'clock after 5 days of Disneyland was like, we're tired. We're going to go to sleep. And I'm like, it's 9 o'clock. I'm in Vegas. The last thing I am
the
doing.
Just starting.
Yeah. I ended up leaving the poker table at 6 a.m.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's what you do it for. As long as you have time to sleep later, it'll be great.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. It was worth it. It was totally worth it. When we get to the next break, Brian, when I'll say goodnight to you on the show, but when we get to the next break, Just stick with me through the break so I can say a proper goodnight to you, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, that'd be
And then after that, you just want me to just sign off, click out?
Yeah, you can just click on out.
Okay, and I can still listen.
Whatever you're funny, Peacock's got it exclusively. Stream classic sitcoms like The Office, Parks and Recreation, and 2.5 Men. Plus, catch Peacock original comedies like AP Bio and Saved by the Bell. For all your exclusive comedy faves, go to peacocktv.com and get started.
Finding the right person for the job isn't easy. Just ask someone who hired a lounge singer to be their office receptionist.
Hello, this is Mickey Marquis, and you've reached the office of Doug & Associates. Thank you very much. Catch me Tuesday nights at the Hotel Johnson. Hello?
But if you've got an insurance question, you can always count on your local Geico agent. They can bundle your policies, which could save you hundreds.
Doug & Associates, this is Mickey Marquis. Hello?
For expert help with all your insurance needs, visit geico.com/local today.
On the website, right?
Yeah,
or on YouTube?
On YouTube, one of the two.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You feel like you're getting what you need, Dave?
I'm getting everything that I need, man. You're a good contact for us. I'm very proud of my team for booking you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it was all sort of initially put in place by Ron Murphy.
Yeah, the guru.
Yeah, so he and I had worked on a project together that we're still trying to get set up. So it's still private, but we hope to have something to announce someday.
Well, you tell the guru that I need to be involved with that because I'm the guy who put him on the map.
Oh, we would love it, man. The more the merrier.
Oh yeah, I do though. We do need to talk about the Nahanni Valley though.
Yeah. I want to do some reading on it tomorrow and see if I can come up with any angles that aren't already out there.
Yeah. Well, you got my phone number.
Yeah.
So
and that was you called me. You called me from your cell phone, right?
Yeah. You can text me or call me at that number. One of the
two.
Yeah, that works. Oh God, that area just scares. It gives me a rush. You know, it's like before going on a scary ride or something like that, man. That area just gives me that rush.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bizarre type of travel. I'll say that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I would even like to go up to this area where you are. I'm kind of stupid.
Well, if we're lucky enough to get a season 2, maybe we bring you out.
Oh, hey, I could make time. I'll
tell you what. No, that's no BS about that boat ride. That boat ride.
Oh God,
terrible. If I never had to do that again, I'd be happy.
Yeah. Well,
not even seasickness, just a terrifying boat ride.
Yeah. Well, the good part is I would do that boat ride because I know there's no great white sharks up there. So
we saw orcas off the side of the boat, though.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. You know, we got about 2 minutes or about 1 minute here.
Okay. Yeah, I used to go surfing when I was living in Santa Cruz, and that was a pretty sharky area.
Not me, man. I'm a meal.
we're all somebody's meal in waiting, right?
Yeah, not me. Not me. No friggin' way. Too cold for Megalodon up there. I would take a chance. I would take a chance on the ocean up there. I would. I want to say a big thank you to Fapster, Smithy, and Terry for the great super chats tonight. Really appreciate the love and support, guys. Thank you so much for your love of SOR and what we do on a nightly basis. Really appreciate that. Thank you to all the veterans who are tuning in here on Spaced Out Radio. You always have a safe home with us in our chat room, and God bless you for everything that you've done and sacrificed. And to all our regulars and newbies who are coming on in, thank you so much for the love. If you're new, don't forget to hit that subscribe and bell. We are here 7 days a week for your listening ears. Here we go, everyone. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. For the final time tonight, Brian Kniffel is here with us. You may not recognize his name, but he's one of the producers of a television series on Discovery Plus called Alaskan Killer Bigfoot. You can find it on Amazon Prime through Discovery Plus. And you know what? This is an 8-part series, and it is rolling right now. So if you want to check it out, well, do it after the show. Not during, but after, because you're going to want to catch up on this one. Brian, welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
So right before the break, we were talking about, these creatures, whatever they are, that were starting to throw rocks at you guys. And, it was starting to get a little hairy in this area as the time goes on. I mean, and for people who don't know, I mean, you're there for 40 days. It may be only 8 episodes of 43 minutes long, but you're still there for 40 days to capture. At any time, did it get scary enough where you guys were like, you know what, this is too much, we may have to call this early?
There were elements, yeah. So this is a perfect timing. So there was the guys found something they were not expecting to find there, something that the elders in the village had never spoken about. And it was this, 8-foot tall stone obelisk in the middle of the forest, clearly visible to the bay, right? So they found this thing. Nobody had ever heard of it, not even the guys who had grown up hearing about Portlock. And when Guy arrived, Guy was one of the cast members, he did a prayer at this obelisk, and he left a religious icon on the obelisk, because they're Eastern Orthodox Christians, so they do these prayers, and the idea behind him doing this one was to ward off any bad energy and to basically send a message to Nantinak that they didn't mean any harm. And Ash is another one of the cast members. He was hiking around with, we called them the diary cams. So they're basically cameras that these guys kept with them all the time. And he went back to that stone obelisk, and that icon was burned. And
yeah,
no other evidence of fire except for that immediate area. So, the skeptic in me is saying, well, somebody's out here messing around with us.
Ash is in our chat room right now, by the way.
Oh, cool. Hey, Ash. And he could tell you more about it, and I'm sure he would. But he comes up, and you can see this in the show. There's embers on the corners of this icon. And, so whether that's Bigfoot, whether that's a spiritual thing, or whether that's a human being out in the woods messing with us, that felt to me like enough of a threat where I'm calling home base on the satellite phone going, what do you guys want to do? There's rogue fire starting in the forest here where nobody's been all day. So, and I know nobody on our team's going out into the woods and lighting stuff on fire. Like the last thing that Discovery wants is a story about somebody burning down the forest in Alaska. So there's no pyro anything that I'm willing to touch. Right. So when Ash came back with that footage, it was really time to think about, is it worth staying here?
Right.
Because this could be a lot worse.
Right. And we should say hello to Ash Nadaroff in our chat room. And Ash, I'd love to get you on the show to talk some Sasquatch with you sometime. So we'll have to get your email address or contact information if you don't mind, because I'd love to bring you on. But, okay, so that brings up a good point, because I know, like, with a lot of people that I know that go looking for Sasquatch, before they even enter the forest, they are saying prayers, or they are laying down tobacco or smoking tobacco, anything as an offering to these creatures as a peaceful gesture. outside of this religious idol, was there any type of gifting going on as a peaceful gesture to these creatures?
Not really until later in the process. So once stuff started to get sort of more aggressive, people were trying to make peace in whichever ways they could, whether it was by prayer or I don't think we showed this in the show, but we brought in a medium, a physical medium to try to communicate with whatever was there, whether it was Bigfoot or something else. And she had done some offerings with, I think she used rose quartz. She did, some basic cleansing stuff with just typical sage. Gosh, I'm going to do a terrible job remembering all the stuff she brought, but she did bring, different stones with healing and protection properties to leave as an offering, sort of a peacemaking gesture. This was a crazy thing. I don't think this is in the show, but we had a crazy storm, and it was bad enough that we weren't able to film for a little while because we just couldn't have people out in this sideways wind blowing 50 miles an hour. The camp was turned upside down, and where she had set some of these stones on just this the cedar log they found, they set up kind of like an altar. It was the only thing undisturbed. So, and it had a couple of stones. I'll have to check in with her and remember what it was that she brought. I remember rose quartz for sure. But that was wild to me because to me that's sort of on the more kind of woo-woo side of things for me, like all the stones and crystals and stuff like that. So I'm generally less of a believer in that stuff, but this is crazy. Like DJ, one of the cast members, he had built a cinder block oven to cook for the guys while we were out there, and that thing was torn apart by this storm. And here's just this log with 5 or 6 rocks on it that was untouched. So, we weren't able to include it in the show. I can't remember for what reason, but that was something we were all kind of looking at each other like, how is this possible? These, half-pound rocks are staying put, but this is knocking over full-size trees. So
it doesn't
food
make
for
sense.
thought, if nothing else.
Doesn't make sense sometimes. Nicola has a question for you. Says, sir, some of the best stories I have heard. Question for you. Are you now a believer in Bigfoot?
I would say, yeah. I will always hang on to at least a sliver of skepticism. Because until it's standing right there in front of me, I can't be 100% certain. But the stuff that happened out there was like nothing I've ever seen before, in person or on video. It was just an insane place. It feels like it has a life of its own, and it feels like it's governed by something out there, and I think that's probably Bigfoot.
There's a great debate in the Bigfoot world on whether or not this is an animal of this planet or whether there is something spiritual or supernatural about it, like many First Nations cultures believe and indigenous cultures believe. After having this experience going through 40 days in this hotbed, where would you kind of stack up to on that?
If I were betting, I'd say it's supernatural. I just think that the way that the evidence is clear and present and then vanishes, it's beyond physics. So, you'll see something, and then when you turn your head back, it's not there. You'll follow what looks like a path of footprints, and they just vanish. So there's one footprint that we found in a sort of tidal bog that's out there. So when the tide comes in, it fills up. When the tide goes out, it kind of empties and leaves this kind of muddy thing. And there's a footprint walking more or less straight into this thing. And there's only one. And it doesn't matter where you look around the thing. There's none going in the direction that it appears to be headed. There's not one behind it. So it's like, where the hell did this thing come from? Where did it go? Right? So unless it can fly, which I guess is possible too, but it's just... to me, it just seems like they've got to be going somewhere else. And And that's why I think it was so useful to have Ron Moorhead out there, because he's just sort of considered all the avenues already and had so many experiences with these things that, it's nice to hear it from a reasonable person who's well-studied and researched. And he's not fanatical. He's not a crazy person, waving his arms. He's sitting there calmly saying, this is what we have in front of us. So sometimes it has to be the thing that you think it is.
And why not? It's allowed to be. It's allowed to be. Larry has a question for you, and I'm going to ask a couple more questions before we flip topics here. Don't Bigfoot stack boulders to mark their territory?
See, that's something I've read. It's not something that I noticed out there. I saw rocks that seemed out of place, and I saw rocks that were in one place one day and in another the next. That have been slightly shifted. Either up the beach or down the beach or whatever. But I never saw like rock towers. We did see other indications that felt like territorial markings. I mentioned the bark rubbings, the bark scrapings in that one area. The guys ended up calling this spruce tree the creepy tree or the spooky tree because it was so weird, and it just had an energy all its own, and it had all these indications of something big scraping this bark off. So stuff like that was there. We also saw lots and lots of X's in tree structures. So places where trees would not have fallen naturally in an X shape, would sort of form barricades across game trails. So that to me read like a marking of territory, or at least an attempt to direct traffic either to or away from a certain part of the forest.
All right, let's move on to another question here from Digger Dog. Did any of the group see any unexplained lights, orbs, or let's call it UFOs?
Yes. I'm so glad for that question, because this has been on the top of my mind all day. So there's 3 that stand out. So there was a night that the cast went into the forest without the camera crew, because they felt like we had too big of a footprint and we were going to be too loud, too hard to move around. They wanted to actually sit and try to hear what they could hear. And you can see this clear as day in their footage that they filmed with their own cameras. One of the guys was 100% sure he saw eye shine, like the light reflecting off of something's eyeball, like what hunters describe. And to me, it resembles an orb, but it's in deep woods. So there's nothing flying around in this tree. It is as dense a canopy as you're going to find up there. So there's nothing flying freely. That one could not have been a UFO. We saw something similar to that the same night we did the speaker experiment with Ron Moorhead. We're just looking at the trees, and there's something, a pulse of light, probably about the size of, volleyball or something like that, just right behind the immediate tree line, like less than 10 feet in, kind of moving back and forth behind the trees. And I saw that, and I know at least one of the camera guys saw it, and Kyle, the bear guard, saw that as well. And that was right in the aftermath of playing those sounds. So the one that is probably the most compelling for your listeners, I never saw it. I watched these episodes 100 times by the time they make it to the airwaves when everybody else gets to see it, because we don't want to catch any mistakes, like me walking around in the background of a shot or something like that, which the camera team will probably complain about, privately. But there's a shot where Keith and Kyle are on the beach and they're talking, and you can see in the horizon, it's still like the last bits of daylight. You can see a flashing a light hovering. I couldn't even estimate how high off the water. The shot does not change. We stay on the exact same camera shot. The light's there, and then it's just not. And it is undeniable. I encourage everybody to go look at the most recent episode. And they're there, they're talking. The camera does not change. It is very clearly one shot, and the light's there, and it's pulsing, and then it just vanishes.
Oh man!
So that was the craziest one that we got, kind of solid video evidence of it, because it's not like the thing doesn't just like fly off and go out of sight. it's there in one spot for the duration of the shot, and then it's just not.
Wow. Brian Kniffel is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Brian, you also worked on Blind Frog Ranch, and we'll get to that in a second, but I got one more question for you regarding Alaska killer Bigfoot. Are you going back? Is there going to be a season 2 in that area, or are you going to find a new area?
I hope to do a season 2. I mean, there's still a lot more for folks to see in the final 2 episodes. It got pretty intense out there. But I think despite the sort of more negative experiences that everybody went through, I think people still want to see it through. People want to see if there's a way where people can live out there. And it's my understanding that that's the sentiment from the people in the village in Nanwalek. So as long as they want us there, as long as they want the help, getting people out there, keeping people secure, that kind of thing, then we would be open to it. Getting that backing from Discovery will only come from folks turning out to watch and checking it out and kind of demanding it of them. So if anybody likes the show, tweet to Discovery, tell them you want more, because that's our best bet for getting a season 2.
Well, we got to get them to also open it up in Canada as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I just found out my mom couldn't get it in Northern California, so it's not an international thing. It's just a matter of distribution deals. So we'll figure out. We'll try to work on some kind of workaround for our Canadian friends.
I hope so. All right, let's talk about the Blind Frog Ranch. I mean, everybody's so familiar with Skinwalker Ranch, yet there are these other ranches across the United States and around the world who seem to have this type of phenomena happening as well, one being Blind Frog Ranch. Tell us about this place.
So, just for 100% clarity, I did the first season of Blind Frog Ranch, and that's all that's aired so far. They actually are still working away and investigating out there. They have a new season starting tomorrow. So super interesting, guys, super interesting place. So if you're into UFO content and crazy stuff, I would definitely check it out. This ranch is in northeastern Utah. The closest town, if you want to look at it on a map, is called Vernal. And they are, as the crow flies, roughly 15 miles from Skinwalker Ranch. Not super easy to get around quickly out there, but they are in the same vicinity. So if there's something flying overhead at Skinwalker, it's also flying overhead at Blind Frog. So basically a lot of the reports that happen at Skinwalker, there's a very similar story coming out of Blind Frog. There's gold miners up there that have seen stuff. These guys are all...
Socks are the #1 most requested item in homeless shelters. Underwear is the second, shirts are third. At Bombas, socks were first, made with comfortable details for everyday wearing. Then underwear and shirts too, all designed to perfectly fit. At Bombas, every item you purchase means you're donating an essential clothing item to someone in need. One comfortable clothing item for you, one donated to someone in need. Bombas, comfort for all. Get 20% off your purchase at bombas.com/comfy.
Finding the right person for the job isn't easy. Just ask someone who hired their personal trainer as a caterer.
All right, folks, let's keep this line moving. You there with the tongs. Picking up one Duchess potato at a time will not cut it at my catering table. Drop and give me 50.
But if you've got an insurance question, you can always count on your local Geico agent. They can bundle your policies, which could save you hundreds.
Okay, this is what we call the wild mushroom and asparagus dip, and press. Come on, let's get those plates above your heads.
For expert help with all your insurance needs, visit geico.com/local today.
So hunting for gold out there. That's the primary reason for being there. But ever since they arrived, there's just been this onslaught of UFO and extraterrestrial activity that is pretty insane. Like, I had never had what I considered to be a UFO experience until I was there. And it seemed like it was nonstop. So Chad, one of the guys on that show, he had these really high-end night vision goggles. I don't know what the magnification is. He could tell you about it. But you just point your eyes to the sky, and it was like a pinball of stuff. It is just insane how much activity there is in the sky up there, and it is not shooting stars. These are things making deliberate turns at varying heights above the earth. You'll watch something move across the sky and stop, turn around, and go back the other way. And I know I've never seen a shooting star do something like that. Dwayne, the owner of the ranch, he talks about an experience. He saw a very close to Earth UFO, I think he calls it a spaceship, approach the ranch and just stop above this one area of the ranch. And he said when it came in, it was cloaked in what looked like clouds. Then it cleared and was perfectly visible to him. And he says, sober as a judge, saw it. It just sat there and then went away. And he stands by it. He'll tell you, swear on whatever you ask. That's what happened to him.
Oh, I love it.
It's the other thing that's bizarre there that I should mention that this place is kind of becoming famous for. They have one area of this ranch that Dwayne calls the energy zone. And for whatever reason, he's able to create metal out of nothing, like a modern day alchemy. So we did an experiment out there where we scooped up dirt from this one part of the ranch, and we tested it with a professional geologist and really high-end tools like X-ray fluorescence, which can scan a bag of dirt and tell you every element that's in it. These are tools that are many thousands of dollars and are used in mining and oil exploration and all that. So they're legit. Anyway, they tested the bag of sand that they dug up. No sign of silver or platinum or iridium or anything like that in the sand. They heat all the sand up in a crucible and liquefy it, and it spits out a metal chunk at the end of this experiment. And when you test the metal chunk, there's iridium and silver and platinum in it. That was not there when I have no clue how it happens. But we did it multiple times from different parts of the ranch, and it happened each time. And Dwayne insists that there's something very special about this one part of the ranch that is, superior energetically, and he thinks that might be part of why there's so much UFO activity there.
Does he get a lot of skinwalker activity there too?
Oh yeah, and he's friendly with those guys too. They kind of share information, not for TV purposes, but they're all kind of after the same goal, right? They want to know what the heck's going on.
No, I'm saying, has he seen actual skinwalkers on his property?
That I don't know. I'd have to ask him. So they've been out there working again this year. I wasn't able to do season 2 because I was in Portlock, but I'm still friendly with the guys at Blind Frog Ranch and also the guys who make the TV show. So I can probably find out. I know that when I was there with them, more than once there were mutilated deer that showed up. So we know that there's bears out there. There's also wolves in certain times of the year. So you can never rule that out. But typically, bears and wolves would eat.
They're ripping apart a carcass.
There. Yeah, and not leave much behind. And they were finding, deers just shredded apart that looked like they had been maimed. And the meat's still there. But in one case, I think the entrails were pulled out. Like it looked like something had gutted the inside of it. So I don't know if they've seen it or not, but they've definitely seen the signs.
Wow. My friend, we have less than a minute here left with you, and I could share stories with you all night long, man, and listen to your stories of what you filmed. Absolute pleasure. Do us a favor, Brian. Tell everybody where they can find Alaskan Killer Bigfoot once again.
So Alaskan Killer Bigfoot is presently exclusively available on Discovery Plus. They have a channel on Amazon Prime, so you can access it that way if you use that platform. Eventually, we think that it will air on linear cable on Travel Channel, but that is not confirmed at this point. So that could be coming. But for now, Discovery Plus is the way.
All right, my friend. You and I are going to talk soon because we got the Nahanni Valley to talk about.
But, yeah.
But I appreciate you taking the time for our audience on Spaced Out Radio here. I hope you had a great time. Thank you so much, Brian. Coming up next, yes, the Swamp Dweller is back with another spooky story. Dave versus Dave. Then at the bottom of the hour, Dave 101, Shirky Poo's news, and the thought of the Dave. Lots of Dave action happening in hour number 3. Next on Spaced Out Radio. We're clear, man. Great show.
All right.
Great
right on,
show.
Dave. That was fun.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a good day today. Been a good day. I talked to one of my radio station owners, and we took over their nights in 2020, and I think it was March or April of 2020 we started broadcasting. They were averaging 50 listeners a night on their station, and in their latest projections, since we took over the night, we're close to 10,000 listeners a night on their station. Yeah.
Good for you, man. That's awesome.
She's like, the owner today, actually, she told me, she goes, that we were one of the best decisions she's ever made in radio.
Yeah, that's great. That's a badge of honor.
Yeah, I'm pretty, my jaw just about dropped. So.
Well, shoot. Anyone would kill for that kind of growth. So, and to reach that many sets of ears, that's killer.
Well, it bleeds into Toronto too, so that's good. And in that Ontario area, that southern Ontario area. So I'll call that a good day. I will call that.
Yeah, man, that's big news. I hope I didn't let you down at the end of the day.
No, dude, you were amazing. We got to bring you back. We got to bring you back. I do want to hit you up for some contact info for people from Blind Frog, though, and I'll get I'll get Kate to reach out to you on that. And Ash here, who's in the chat room, he was going to email me his info. Which there it is. So I will chat with him about bringing him on to talk about some Bigfoot too. But I really appreciate getting to know you, Brian. Class dude,
Likewise.
man. Class dude, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, this was fun, man. I could talk shop like this all day long.
Oh, yeah.
So
we will. The best part about it is this is my show. I get to do what I want.
Oh man, that is the best part.
Exactly.
Even when a show's mine, I don't totally get to do what I want.
Yeah, no, that's a good part. And we'll get to it soon. I got to let you go because I got to set up here for the next half an hour. But thank you so much. What a pleasure, man. And we'll talk soon. Okay.
Thanks, Dave. I'm just going to click out of the studio here.
All right, buddy. Take care. All right, there's Brian Kniffel, everyone. What a great show that was. That was so much fun. Like, do you not want to go up there to Alaska and go hang out with that crew and see what they're doing? Hot damn, that sounds like a good time. It really does. Holy cow. Holy cow. I'm like pumped up over that. Like I want to go. Totally want to go. Stick around, everyone. We have lots of show left for you tonight on Spaced Out Radio, so you definitely want to keep on joining us. You know, that's what we do around here. Make it kind of fun. It's all about the woo, people. All about the woo. Oh, shoot. Where is it here? Let's see here. Let's close that. Got a couple of seconds here. And where's that story here? Like that. We're good. Shirky Poo's news is ready. Oh, yeah. We're going to have a good hour here, guys. Good hour. It was a great guest, Jules. You're right. Fantastic guest, Brian Kniffel. Big thank you to Spookles the Cat for a fantastic booking there. And the guru, crypto guru, Ronald Murphy, for recommending Brian to us. That's just awesome. Up next, we're going to go into the swamp, hear a story from Swamp Dweller, then it's Dave versus Dave, then the Dave 101, and then Shirky Poo's news, Thought of the Dave. Lots of Dave action. I didn't realize they named everything Dave. Kind of narcissistic, I think. I don't know. That's just me. Be like Lizzie. Smash that like button. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell if you don't mind. We are here 7 days a week. I'm here Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time. And then Lynn Wallington takes over the interviews on Saturday and Sunday with Spaced Out Weekend starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. After her show, or 8 p.m. 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And then after her show, we go to After Hours with Gemma Jade, Big Willie, and John Hudson. You want to check them out. Big thank you tonight to Smithy, Fabster, Terry, Dry Toast ×2 for the amazing super chats. It really helps out what we are doing on a nightly basis here on Spaced Out Radio. So thank you so much for the love. We really do appreciate it. We appreciate all the veterans tuning us in as well. Always have a safe home here on Spaced Out Radio. And here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. We say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free once again. Yep, they're on YouTube, as well as any major podcast forum. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Raconteur. Raconteur is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. And once again, our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. All right, people, it is that time once again where we bring in the man, the myth, and the swamp-dwelling legend here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to Mr. Swamp Dweller and his latest story for you on Spaced Out Radio.
It was a warm summer afternoon. The golden shine of a setting sun bathed the grass and the trees in brilliant color. I and my friend Grant sat around a campfire, roasting shish kebabs and hot dogs. We were alone in the dense forest, the only ones at the campground. The fire snapped and popped as the sun dipped below the trees, casting shadows across the camp. Me and Grant shared scary stories and some funny stories. But then we fell silent. The sun was now out of sight and a feeling of fear had come over us. Then Grant stood up and declared that he was going to bed. He climbed into his tent and zipped it up, leaving me alone with a dying fire in dark forest. I sat for a few minutes, letting my hot dog char in the fire. That's when I heard a faint echo ring from behind me. It sounded like the wind, but sad and creepy. I turned around as chills traveled up my spine. Behind me was a dirt trail, and across it was a few skinny trees, while behind was a grassy meadow surrounded by forest and illuminated slightly by the moon. The meadow was foggy, and I saw a tall figure moving about 6 blocks away. It walked along with a very long stride, coming slowly, and closer. I freaked out and ran to Grant's tent and woke him up. He groggily followed me out, and I pointed to where I last saw the figure. It was entirely still now, facing us. I was panicked now, and so was Grant. So we took off on the trail where our car was. We knew it would be a good 10-minute run. We tore across the trail, never looking back, until we reached our car, at which point we quickly climbed in and sped away. We were almost out of the campground when we saw a tall figure walk into the road ahead of us. Grant slammed on the brakes and I closed my eyes. Tightly, but when I opened them, the figure was gone. Grant was panting heavily. The creature had just vanished. He continued driving, slower this time. I glanced at the rearview mirror, and what I saw will haunt me forever. A very tall and skinny person with a red plaid shirt and blue pants. He had no hair, ears, or nose, but had an enormous stretched skeletal grin and two huge round white eyes that gleamed in the moonlight. He held out his massive hands for me to see, and in the palms was a symbol. It was a bleeding eye. I yelled at Grant to go, and he did without questioning, for he had seen the monster too. He drove out of the campground and was almost on the main road. I was starting to relax when I looked at the rearview mirror again and saw the monster chasing us on all fours. It was easily keeping up with the car and gaining. Grant sped up even more, tearing across the final stretches of dirt road. The end of the forest was now in view. That's when I heard a loud thump land on top of the car. I checked the rearview mirror again and saw the monster was gone. I shivered as I heard scratching sounds from above me. It was on top of the car. I looked at the window to my right and got a close view of its scarred and rotting face. It was leaning over the top of the car and peering into the window at me, craning its long, bony neck. It extended a finger and tapped on the window. Grant kept driving, and I just sat there too scared to move. Grant put on a sudden burst of speed and then slammed the brakes. The creature's legs went flying forward as it roared, hanging on with its thin hands. Grant sped away before the monster could regain balance, and it flew off backward. We drove the rest of the way home at high speeds. Ever since then, I've never seen the man in plaid again.
I never want to see that. How scary would that be? Having that monster jump on top of your car and chase you down. Definitely sounded like a skinwalker. Thank you to Mr. Swamp Dweller. Make sure you head on over to his channel on YouTube, Swamp Dweller. Hit subscribe and ring that bell for him as he is putting up great content. He's almost at 250,000 subscribers, and we'd love to have our listeners subscribe to him. It is that time in the night, once again, where we go to Dave versus Dave.
What's up, guys?
What is up, Mr. Dave? You're looking fantastic tonight, by the way.
Thank you, man. You're looking good, too.
Well, I can only do it because you and I are the lovely twins, Dave versus Dave, here on Spaced Out Radio, a brand new feature where we ask 3 burning questions of what is going on in this weird and strange world. Dave, how was your day today?
It was good, man. How was yours? I stayed warm all day, so I was feeling good.
I did not stay warm. We had a foot of snowfall today. A foot of snow. And after I battled for about an hour and a half in minus 20 degree Celsius temperatures with snow falling and battled with my snowblower right through, I took a nap. So I was tired. And I should have went and done it again. That's how much snow fell.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But you should know this. I mean, you know the climate.
Yeah. How long does it take us to blow the driveway out with a snowblower up there?
Oh, it depends. It could be up to an hour, hour and a half. Depends how thick the snow is, man. You know?
That's some cold work. Cold work.
Very, very cold work. And this is a new feature on Spaced Out Radio, Dave versus Dave. If you're on the radio side, you got to go over to the YouTube side of this, where me and my twin get together for 3 burning questions. What is your first question of the night, Dave?
You ready?
I am ready. I'm pumped up. Hold on.
Well,
let me just stretch a little bit here.
This one's been eating at me.
Uh-huh.
As John Hudson last night, as per what John Hudson said on the UFO report last night.
Yes, I remember.
Why do you think the Pentagon keeps playing games about the topic with this UFO thing?
Oh, man. I love your thinking. It's like you and I are connected. It really is like you and I are connected.
I think we are.
I think we are too.
It's not just good looks.
Keeping your tech teams on top of the latest developments is a monumental challenge. Helping them get answers to the urgent problems they face daily is even harder. That's why over 60% of Fortune 100 companies count on the O'Reilly Learning Platform. At O'Reilly, your teams will get live online courses, tons of resources, truly interactive scenarios and sandboxes, and fast answers to their most pressing questions. See for yourself what O'Reilly can do for your teams. Visit O'Reilly.com for a demo.
Is Whataburger's Honey Barbecue Chicken Strip Sandwich a work of art? The 3 chicken strips covered in melted Monterey Jack cheese are a study in contrasts and surprise. And the honey barbecue sauce, while at first unexpected, becomes a sweet delight to the senses. Plus, there's the 2 thick slices of Texas toast that are the canvas for this tasteful creation. And you can eat it. How about that for a masterpiece you can really bite into? The Honey Barbecue Chicken Strip Sandwich at Whataburger. Just like you like it.
Oh,
we got the brains, too.
You are a good-looking man, by the way. Very good-looking man.
Thank you. So are you.
I appreciate that. Well, let me tell you this. For a number of months here, I have been trying to expand our audience's knowledge on this, claiming, and I could be wrong, Dave, but claiming that there is this UFO Pandora's box sitting at the Pentagon that has all the secrets to crash retrievals, technology, communication, dead bodies, alive bodies of extraterrestrials. And I believe that they are in fear of any of these stories getting out. Because if they have to claim those stories as their own and real, this is where things are going to hit the fan.
Mm-hmm.
Deep, deep, deep. Okay, could you imagine, in that Pandora's box, you got to realize right now, the more the Pentagon tries to shut down this topic of UFOs, the more, Dave, that we as researchers, enthusiasts, fans of this topic, have to understand that we cannot, in my opinion, and a lot of people will disagree with me, but cannot exclude any type of conspiracy regarding UFOs. We can't. All right? It goes to Roswell. It goes to the potential, story of President Eisenhower meeting aliens at Edwards Air Force Base back in 1953 and 54. It goes all the way up to Bob Lazar, whether or not Bob Lazar is real or not, or David Adair launching rockets from his home a couple of states east all the way into Area 51. This is what opens up. It opens up what they know about crash retrievals. S4, what are they hiding at Wright-Patterson? Or other areas of that ilk. Look, as long as they are denying the secrets, these questions, we could say they're debunked. We could say there's not enough evidence or proof that this happened, but we cannot deny anything. Because this is more, and maybe you agree with me, Dave, or not, but I believe this is more than just UFOs in the sky. They have a lot to protect at a years, decades of information that they are not giving us or wanting to talk about. They are obviously, from Susan Go on down, their PR person on down, are trying to sweep this topic back under the rug. And when you try and sweep something back under the rug that's already been public, that means there is secrets. And it's not just about the technology. It's not about these craft that could go from 80,000 feet to sea level in less than 1 second or pull 90 Gs at 43,000 miles an hour. It is more than that. And they don't want those secrets getting out because, Dave, there's a 330 plus million Americans who are going to be pretty upset with their government and their military if they know that aliens are here, are taking people, maybe experimenting on people, and the government knows that the public knows that they know. Your thoughts?
I'm going to have to agree with us on that one, Dave. Yeah, and knowledge is power. And with the government, they don't want no one to have, it's not just that they don't want anyone to have more knowledge or power than them. They don't want us to even have the same knowledge as them. They don't want us to even be equal. We always got to be that one step below with them. If they've got something to hang over us, then they know more than us. Maybe that makes them a little better, maybe, they think.
But think about this, man. If they have nothing to hide, if the Pentagon and all the alphabet agencies and the U.S. military have nothing to hide, why are they trying to bury the subject? If they don't know what it is, why not bring it to a public forum and say, hey, public, we need your help. If you've seen a UFO, if you filmed a black triangle, if you have pictures or video evidence of being abducted by aliens or aliens in your house, could you please send that to us so that way we can try and figure it out? They're not trying to figure it out because I believe in that UFO Pandora's box, they already know the answers.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts?
And I think they do try to figure it out, but it's for themselves. Like, let's say somebody finds some metamaterial and they know about it. They're going to go take that metamaterial from you and tell you, this belongs to the government now. But then they're not going to turn around and tell everybody, hey, look what we went and got from Mr. So-and-so. He found this metamaterial. He's seen this come off of a ship, a craft, an orb, fell out of Bigfoot's back pocket. But you can't have it. And then once they get it, they're going to study it for themselves. But then again, they're not going to tell us anything. So I think they do want to know about it, but they're just not. They send it out like the Men in Black. They're going to go out and get that information, and they're going to keep it to themselves. But they do want it, I think. They just don't want to share it.
I agree with you, man. Could you imagine... Sonny. Oh, who's Sonny? Who's Sonny? Dave, could you imagine if by chance the American government knows who is being abducted? What if they have let's be real woo here for a second. What if they have a list and they made a deal with the aliens for technology? And what if they have a list of the people who are being abducted? Could you sue the government if you found out they knew? That's a lawsuit.
You might be able to.
That's a lawsuit.
What if one of your family members that's been missing is on that list and you haven't seen them? I think somebody would get in trouble. Somebody's going to get sued.
I think so. I absolutely think so. There's a lot to lose, little to gain.
Mm-hmm.
Little to gain. Let's move on to hot question number 2 you got for me.
All right. This is a good one because we like Sasquatch, man. So this one's going to be, how do you feel about the Sasquatch debate? Whether him being an animal or is he supernatural? Which one do you lean
You're hitting a
towards?
very soft topic for me, man. Very soft topic for me. I think there is something special with this creature. I really do. I know I might be in the minority about this, but when you hear the stories about the BFRO taking reports and editing them so that way, the UFOs that have been seen or the ghosts that have been seen, or people claiming that the Sasquatch disappeared right in front of their eyes. that tells me that something is going on. You listen to our guest tonight that we just finished interviewing, Brian Kniffel, who believes that after their tour up in Alaska, looking for these 10 to 15 foot tall Sasquatch, how they were able to just make things happen. I mean, that's just weird. We're either dealing with a very highly intelligent creature. All right? We're dealing with a highly intelligent creature that really is the apex alpha of its domain, or we're dealing with something that truly does have supernatural power. I don't believe in the Gigantopithecus idea. I don't believe that this is the North American great ape or monkey. It seems way too intelligent and modified for that. Add to the fact that, people have seen tracks in the snow that just end, and there's no exit point into the forests or into anywhere. There's nothing. It just kind of happens. So I strongly believe that, I don't want to say there's something supernatural with it, but I do think there is something very special about this creature that we just don't know about just yet.
Yeah. I know when I think supernatural too, I've been thinking that maybe these orb sightings that people are talking about, they might be supernatural. After seeing a few videos and stuff of them. And I heard somebody say something really funny today, and I was surfing through the channels, and I can't remember who exactly said it. I think his name was Charles. He said he kind of got asked the same question. It was a little something as the same, and but his was, did he think they were animals or paranormal? And what his response was, until he sees one fart out an orb, he's not going to be 100% for sure on which it is an animal or supernatural paranormal.
But I mean, the people
I thought that was funny, because a lot of people say when they see Bigfoot, they see an orb, and some people think he turns into that orb, and that's where your footprint's in.
That could be very much it. We don't know. The big thing for any Sasquatch researcher out there is you don't have to believe it's supernatural. If you're a hardcore science, hey, this is an animal kind of person, you don't have to believe it's supernatural. The one thing you cannot do is shut down any type of potential theories, because we don't know what the creature is. So even though you may not believe, researchers here have to realize their belief means nothing. My personal belief means nothing in regards to the creature. Right? It isn't. Yeah. But we can't shut the door on it until we know for sure. That is my biggest complaint. Question number 3. We got 2.5 minutes left in Dave versus Dave.
All right. I'll fire this one out there. That's not the same. It's a little different. Who are your top 3 researchers in the entire realm of the phenomenon?
Oh, that is a steep question.
Hope you can answer that one in 2 minutes.
My number 1 would be David Weatherly. Okay. Now, he is, for people who don't know David, he is an author from EerieLights.com. If you want to check out his books, he's written a lot of books with Ross Allison and others about all sorts of monsters and paranormal tales and UFO tales. He's most famous for his work with black-eyed children and the stories that go along those lines. Very well-grounded researcher. He would be my number 1. My number 2 would be Timothy Renner. Timothy is also an author who really keeps an open mind and everything. He has his own personal beliefs, but he has studied everything from Sasquatch to paranormal and UFOs and everything in between, and he really believes strongly, like David, that there is an interconnection between the two. My third one would be our good friend on this show, Ross Allison, who's more of a paranormal researcher. That's really his shtick. But Ross keeps an open mind that everything is connected. He has been investigating all over the world, and the evidence that he has created, he's not scared to push the boundaries of how to get reaction from spirits in different ways, whether it's doing paranormal investigations naked, or whether it's doing paranormal investigations with just women or just men, or, singularly in a haunted house while everybody else waits outside. He's caught UFOs, he's caught other things. He's really starting to open up his mind. When it comes to researchers out there, if you want to believe who's doing the great work, look at the people who are looking into everything at once. Grant Cameron also gets an honorable mention on that, because one thing they do is they take a trail and they follow that trail right to the bitter end, whether it's nothing there or whether there is more trail to go. And those are the type of researchers that are getting responses. It may bring a lot more woo, but it will also bring a lot more interest in the subject and knowledge for what is going on. Dave, another big one down. Episode 2 of Dave versus Dave is through the roof. I'm loving this, man. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yep. Thank you.
Coming up next, Dave 101. Oh, yes. It is time to discuss individualism. Is there too much of it in research? Let's find out when we come back on Spaced Out Radio. We'll see who's reading it, Dave or Dave. We got Jerky Poo's news as well. You sticking around, brother, or are you going to go?
Yeah, no, I'll stick around. If you want to have me, I'd love to stay.
Yeah, you're always welcome to stay. Hey, there's the fedora-wearing John Hudson. Simon Wales, you have not been banned from this channel at all. There's no reason for us to ban you. We love you around here. Not sure what's happening, but no, 100% you are not banned from this channel.
You bet. Yeah, Simon's a good guy.
Simon's a cool dude. Solaire, how are you?
Out with him a few times. Very funny man.
Spaghetti Lee, your hair looks fantastic.
Hey, Spaghetti Lee.
Hey, Papa Willie, how you doing, buddy? The bodyguard.
Papa Willie. He sure is. He's still watching over us, but from the chat room.
The bodyguard. Oh, let's see here. Who else is here? Dijo,
Chad Smith in here.
Oh, Chad Smith is here. The Chad Smith. Mm-hmm. Tony D.
Oracle's been. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hey, you're allowed. You're like me. You're allowed to give some roll call.
All right. Well, Cassidy's here from Oracle's and Beyond.
She has an
Grandmaster UV. Got a whole bunch of good people in here tonight, Dave.
Nice. By the way, I'll show you a little photo here. Where is it here? This is me earlier today. I'll bring it up on Instagram. Hold on. This is me earlier today after I just got finished snow blowing my driveway at minus 20 Celsius. Look at that. Look how frozen. The snow in my hair. You can see my mustache is frozen. My beard is frozen. My hair is frozen.
Our glasses frames are iced up, Dave.
Our glasses frames are iced up. Absolutely. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. We were cold.
I'm getting cold just thinking about it. I'm starting to feel it again.
Oh, for sure. For sure. By the way, I'm going to be appearing on Super Quest show this Saturday. I don't think he goes live. I think he records it and then puts it out. I'm looking forward to it. Oh, it's a pro wrestling roundtable. I am so in. If it's old school wrestling, I am so in. I'm going to join that. I think Merle's going to be there too. Look at that. The minute we start talking UFOs, these Russian bots show up. We talked Bigfoot for 2 hours. We had one bot.
I was trying to find him.
Yeah, I got him, buddy. I got him.
Oh, Sunsaver. How's it going, Sunsaver? Fap?
Nose on scent. Good to see you. Let's see here. I'm hungry. Do we have any apples in the fridge? Robert Lamke, welcome. Oh.
Snapple apple.
I'm going to grab us an apple after the show. Oh, by the way, I just learned, and I will get the dates, okay, that I believe UFOCon 2022 is going to be underway in San Francisco. I think it might be next month. No. I will find out after the show. And guess who's speaking there? Dave.
I am?
We are speaking there. Are you going to be my bot? Yes, you're going to come, right?
I guess I'm going to have to try to go to that one too.
Yeah,
I better be there. I'll have to gas up that little Honda Civic, I guess we got a Honda CRV. It shouldn't take too long to get to Frisco, the way we drive.
Oh, 12 minutes. Good.
Yep.
I just got to make sure I can get across the border. How many COVID sticks do I got to shove up my nose? They're not going to get there because my nose is so crooked, but that's okay. That's okay.
Our passport and everything's all in line, ready to go?
Our passport is ready. Our passport is ready. All right.
I think we'll make it across the border.
We got 10 seconds here, everyone.
All right, let's go.
Here we go. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Now, for some reason, my audio for Dave versus Dave has disappeared. I don't know where it went. It's gone.
The one from...
Oh, hold on. Here it is. Here it is.
Okay.
Hold on. Let's do it.
It's time for Dave 101.
All right, there is an old saying that there is no I in team, but there sure is hell in me.
Socks are the #1 most requested item at homeless shelters. Underwear second, and shirts are third. At Bombas, socks were first, made with comfortable details for everyday wearing. Then underwear, and shirts too, all designed to perfectly fit. At Bombas, every item you purchase means you're donating an essential clothing item to someone in need. One comfortable clothing item for you, one donated to someone in need. Bombas, comfort for all. Get 20% off your purchase at bombas.com/comfy.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Wait a minute. I've heard that before. That's the note Jeremy wrote to me in my yearbook in the 6th grade. How'd you even know that?
Because it's from Geico.
Yeah, wait, here it is. Dear Luke, have a great summer. P.S. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. Love, Jeremy.
Geico's had this tagline for years, because we help save people money.
So wait, you're saying Jeremy copied you? Yeah, that actually does sound like something the J-Man would do.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
In there, if you spell the letters wrong. The reason why I bring this up is when we go through and investigate these topics, One of the biggest flaws we have in this entire phenomena is we are not sharing evidence. But there's a number of reasons for that. A lot of people do not share evidence because of what happens on the internet. The internet is a cruel, stingy, mean place if you want to provide evidence. It is a place where your video of Sasquatch or your photo of a ghost will get absolutely torn apart by a bunch of armchair critics who were not there to see the build-up to the story. That is what is wrong with this field. And it is individualized the investigator to the point where they don't want to share their information anymore. But we need it to happen. Why do we need it to happen? We need to be able to share our evidence, share our information, to see if others can investigate those same places in order to try and recreate the evidence that was found. It is a tough gig to do, especially with a field that is so very untrustworthy of one another. Friends become friends, then they become enemies very, very quickly in this field, all because you may have a certain disbelief than the other. It is individualized potential groups, paranormal teams, Sasquatch teams, UFO hunting teams. Every field has been individualized. It is not healthy to individualize anything. It is healthy to get other opinions. However, with the way the internet has been over the last decade or so regarding these phenomena, would you really put your personal information out there? It's a very tough call. I can tell you right now, I don't think if I had the smoking gun video of Bigfoot, that I would put it out. Why? I don't need the criticism. I don't need the headache. I don't need the threats. I don't need the questions about my own sanity or whether or not I know how to use Photoshop or video editing, which I do not. I don't know how this works. But if I'm in the British Columbia forest and I get that video, I'm keeping it out of the public. There are people I would send it to because I wouldn't want to individualize my work. I would want it looked at. I would send it to David Weatherly. I would send it to Timothy Renner. I would send it to Butch Witkowski, Ronald Murphy, David Politis. The reason why I would is because I want affirmation from people who know more than I do. What I wouldn't do is release it to the public. Now, a lot of people would say that is the wrong attitude to have. If you have that smoking gun, you need to put it out there. You need to be able to get that information to the public. Let us all see it. Who is Butch Witkowski? Who is David Weatherly? Well, who are you? But we become so mean and fickle in this field, and it doesn't matter what you're investigating, that no one trusts anyone anymore. We don't trust opinion. We don't trust the way we investigate. We see it all the time. But in order to get the answers that we want, we need to be able to share the evidence, whether it's with scientists, whether it's with more experienced investigators. It doesn't mean you have to go public, but what it does mean is at least you are not hoarding your evidence or your findings. Look, we all want answers to what is going on in this field. We all want to be able to say, Bigfoot is real. Ghosts are real, and there is an afterlife. The extraterrestrials that are flying these rods, these boomerangs, these spaceships, these flying saucers, these black triangles, they are real. We all want it. We all want confirmation. But guess what? The majority of the public does not care. It's only the people who have special interest in these topics that we love that care. And believe it or not, we are in the minority. So the point of hoarding evidence and hoarding your information, hoarding locations, does nothing to help the field grow. If we want to help it grow, and sure, this may sound utopian, we have to be able to work with others. And not just people who agree with our opinion. We have to be able to take constructive criticism. For instance, with this radio show, you, the public, may not see it, but I have a number of people who critique this show, professionals who own radio stations, and radio critics who listen to this show, to tell me what we do right and what we do wrong. Which is why, every now and again, we switch up the format. That's the way we solve things to make things better and bigger and to grow what we do. When it comes to the paranormal, supernatural, the phenomena in general, we have this attitude that if we share that video, if we share those footprints, if we share the evidence that we get, that somebody's going to beat us to it. Somebody is going to ruin our day in the sunshine. Not true. Not true at all. For most cases. I can understand the fear. I can totally understand the want, desire. And hey, there are people out there that want to play alone. And that is okay too. But if you're actually trying to solve the mysteries of what we are doing and what we love, you need to be able to trust people. You need to be able to share locations. You need to be able to tell people, this is where I had my encounter with the aliens. This is where the UFO landed. This is where Sasquatch came within 25 feet of me. This is where the gnomes popped out of the tree. This is where it happened. Trust is something that is very, very few and far between in this field. Hey, I'll be the first one to admit, there are a lot of people I do not trust in this field. You do need to be picky. You do need to understand that there are a lot of people who would love to throw you under the bus because they don't agree with you. But they are the minority of us in the majority. How do we make it better? Find people who are professional in this field. Believe it or not, there are a number of high-quality individuals who do this full-time. Timothy Renner, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, to name 3. Why not go to people like that? It's not about the television stars, okay, just because they've had a hit series that they are fully trustworthy. Okay? And most of the time, their egos are so large, they don't want to deal with us minority investigators. Those of us who are below them, beneath them, because they are better than us. Unless we have something that they want. Then all of a sudden, they'll give us not 15 minutes of fame, maybe 7. They'll be our best friend for about 7 minutes. And then you're off flying in the wind again. But individualizing your investigations, if you're not doing it for yourself and yourself only, really does hurt the field. The danger of it all is this. What if you get hurt? What if something happens that you can't control? And even if you're with a team, what happens if another team has that same type of information and they want to correlate theirs with yours? Are you really that much of an arrogant person or team to not allow that to happen? If you are, you're not solving anything. You're not trying to solve anything, and nothing will be solved. Look, we as people in this field need to stay humble. We need to stay focused. And we also need to understand that when we are out in the field, we need to decide, are we out here for our own benefit or the benefit of the field? Because too many times we are out for the benefit of ourselves, but claiming to be out there for the benefit of the field. We need to keep our focus. We need to keep straight. We need to stay on par with what we are trying to solve. Look, you may be looking to solve something different than I am, but it doesn't mean that we're not going down the same path. We need to be able to do that. And to do that, you need help. You need other people, people that you can trust. Not people from your inner core, but people who are out there doing this professionally, who are trying to solve some of the greatest mysteries that this planet hides from us on a daily basis. We do not know the answers. We do not know what is truly out there. We want to know, but we have to team up to do it. The individual alone will never be able to do it. It's unfortunate, but it is true. And until people in this field start working together and sharing evidence, as utopian as it is, we will never find the answers that we need. And that is your Dave 101. All right, let's get straight to Shirky Poo and her news. We're going to start off here at Mount St. Helens in Washington State, where Bigfoot once again has been discovered by two men. Two men up Mount St. Helens film a dark creature that they believe could be a Sasquatch. The video was uploaded by Bigfoot Believers Only channel, attracted literally thousands of views and comments. Network experts have been talking about this video as well and wondering if it's staged or not. But there's only one thing to know if it's sure or not. Well, you got to go check it on out. So this video, once again, taken in Washington State. We're going to play it for our YouTube people, and I will describe it to you. I'll give you the play-by-play here. Let's go to it. What the heck? Hold on. Let me bring it up here. I don't know about this one. I really don't know. There we go. Oh my goodness, what is that going on there? There it is. This is apparently the video here where they show some rocks in the background. I apologize that it's flashing all over the place. I don't know what's going on there with that. But when they zoom in, they see a big, hairy creature walking through the trees. They're not sure. Looking at that video, it does look like a man in a Sasquatch suit. I'm not going to lie. It looks like BS. It really does. Not worth it. My bad. But we had to see the video. We had to make sure that it was happening. I give it a thumbs down. Dave number 2, what's your thoughts on that video?
I have seen a Bigfoot video that I thought was pretty real, and it was of a Bigfoot walking away. Total different motion. Have much, much bigger steps. So
that was very small
like
steps. Very small steps. I agree with you on that one. All right, let's move on to another story. In case you were looking to embark on a paranormal investigation this year, or know someone who is becoming quite obsessed with the spiritual realm, there's another little toy that you can pick up on Amazon. Yeah, Bakatan Reiseki, a color-changing device that can allegedly alert you, much like a medic alert. Remember, help, I've fallen and I can't get up? Well, it's just like that. Yeah. So you wear this color-changing necklace that is blue in color, but apparently, according to the Japanese company Solid Alliance who made it, the Bakatan Reiseki is allegedly going to turn this crystal red when ghosts are around. And it indicates via different colored lights too. Yes, according to a 2019 press release, the first model in Ghost Detector series was introduced in Japan in 2005, became a big hit in the subculture market in Japan. Lots of ghost reports were sent to the company and media. As a result, over 200,000 units were sold, but they've improved it. It now turns red with ghosts. I can see Jacob Rice on the Angry Ghost Hunter that we do on this channel having a heyday with that. I will guarantee you by the next Angry Ghost Hunter, final Wednesday of the month on our YouTube channel, he will have that device. He will.
I happen to know. That's one thing we do know is that thing's like $50, $20 shipping, and Amazon is currently sold out. So usually when they're sold out of something, it works.
Well, of course the public's going to want it. Everybody's going to want that. I want one.
Mm-hmm.
I want
one too. That's how I know.
Absolutely. I love the finger up like that. That was nice. Very nice.
You got to stop it sometimes.
All right, I appreciate that. A paranormal team investigated an old pagan-turned-Christian site in Inchigoil Island, wherever the hell that is, apparently caught a photo of a ghostly male with a white beard. Was it us? I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, there were a lot of pagans on the island prior to it becoming a Christian settlement around the year 500 AD. There is even a church that was built by St. Patrick and his nephew, Lugnod. All right, so the creepy photo was actually taken on October 30th, all right, by this paranormal supernatural group, and they were reviewing the evidence. It's actually kind of cool. They go on to say, as we believe the night of the 30th of October is the correct night of Halloween as it carries into the 31st, one member stated. We'll show the picture. It's basically of a shadow person with what looks to be like a poor boy's hat on. Apparently they chose good night as they captured some spooky evidence. On the right side of the photo, there appears to be a ghostly apparition lurking behind some trees. Oh, maybe that's not the photo. Where is the photo? They didn't even put the photo up here. You got to be kidding. That's not the photo? Oh, that's garbage.
I don't see trees. I see a shadow, just no trees.
That's just garbage. How do you post a... Hold on a second here. Time out here for a second. How do you post a story about...
The second picture down, I seen trees and a face. Were they talking about that, or was it supposed to be a shadow?
That was all fake picture there. How the hell do you put an article about a photo up in a article online and not include the photo?
Yeah,
that is dumb.
That's a whole lot of buildup with no good finish. It's just
that tests our intelligence, my friend. That tests our intelligence. All right, moving on. South Korea's ruling party presidential candidate has ignited a fierce debate, and Dave, too, you're going to like this one. The fierce debate is over this. He proposed that the country's public health care insurance cover the cost of hair loss treatment. Lee Jae-myung's proposal this week has triggered a flood of messages of support online communities for people suffering from hair loss, but also prompted accusations that it was a bald attempt to win votes. Bald attempt. Lee, the flag bearer of the Democratic Party, said almost 10 million people suffer from hair loss, but many of them order medicines from overseas or resort to prostate drugs as an alternative due to high treatment costs. So, he wants no more hair debates. He doesn't want his public bald unless they want to be. And that's all right. That is all right. Let's get to the thought of the Dave. Here we go. What do you do on a snowy day like we do? Sir Can, pinch myself because I live in Houston, Texas. Sandra likes to sew. She makes mittens, by the way. Nancy, watch it on the news from Tucson. Kenneth, I cleaned my house. Andrew, I make castles in the snow. Mark, what's a snow day? Says the guy at work, because I had the day off. Bobby, make yellow snow. Joe, I like to look for critter prints. John, play video games. Fedora John, who lives in California, says, what's a snow day? Thank you to everybody participating in the Thought of the Dave. Thank you to my brother Dave and to Brian Kniffel for coming on the show talking about Alaskan killers, Bigfoot. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, and on Twitter, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we own the night.
Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.
Calling all partners. Losing weight is better together with Nutrisystem's Partner Plan. In fact, people who diet together lose 20% more weight than dieting on their own. Get new premium meals with up to 30 grams of protein. They're big and filling and taste delicious. Plus, try our new restaurant faves that taste like your favorite restaurant, portioned with half the calories. Don't wait. You could win big cash during Nutrisystem's Better Together Partner Plan 100K giveaway. And maybe win the grand prize of $25,000. Just go to Nutrisystem.com/thin right now and get 50% off plus an extra $50 off your first month. You heard me right. Go to Nutrisystem.com/thin right now and get 50% off plus an extra $50 off. Don't wait. This partner plan offer will not last long. Just go to Nutrisystem.com/thin right now and get 50% off plus an extra $50 off. Go to Nutrisystem.com/thin. See website for details on our 2-month subscription offer. No purchase necessary. Open only to U.S. residents over 21. Void where prohibited. Runs December 25 through April 4th, 2022. For official rules, visit Nutrisystem.com. Sponsored by Nutrisystem, Inc.
Is Whataburger's Honey Barbecue Chicken Strip Sandwich a work of art? The 3 chicken strips covered in melted Monterey Jack cheese are a study in contrasts and surprise. And the honey barbecue sauce, while at first unexpected, becomes a sweet delight to the senses. Plus, there's the 2 thick slices of Texas toast that are the canvas for this tasteful creation. And you can eat it. How about that for a masterpiece you can really bite into? The Honey Barbecue Chicken Strip Sandwich at Whataburger. Just like you like it.